At 6:08, thank you so much. Let's get the agenda up so we can get going. And we'll start the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know we had some technical difficulties. Hopefully, everyone has fixed that. If you are a board member or member of the public, we'll put the link in the chat. Please make sure you sign in so we know that you've been with us today. And welcome. This is the monthly meeting for Manhattan Community Board 1. I am Tammy Meltzer. I'm the chair. And we will start with the public session. So we have a group of speakers lined up. We'll do public session first, then elected representatives. Jay Hellstrom. Jay, are you with us? Let me pull up the participants so I can see myself. Okay. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. Let me just check first. Jay Sandy Eames. Okay, Jay Sandy Eames, and I apologize if I have not said your name correctly. Jen, if you can unmute them, they're in the attendee section.
Sorry, Sam, what's their name again?
Jay space Sandy Eames, E-A-M-E-S.
Gotcha, okay.
Hello? You are
Hello,
on?
Tammy, thank you for letting me speak. Yes. Are you ready?
Yes, you're welcome.
All right. Look, my name is Sandy Eames. I'm a museum volunteer and member for 20 years, but I'm now a frustrated museum supporter, and I'm speaking in support of the resolution regarding the museum funding. I'm deeply concerned that we're headed towards a lose-lose-lose situation. The community will be the first loser by being forced to accept a grossly oversized building within the historic district. The museum will be the second loser by realizing maybe only 25 million of the originally discussed 50 million, an amount insufficient to support the museum long term. And the LPC will be the third loser by showing willingness to bend the rules to accept a building still way beyond the zoned height, by giving the appearance of accepting a community benefit in return, but perhaps also known as a bribe, and supporting the transfer of air rights within a historic district. The result is they deeply damage their credibility in over all historic districts in NYC to the same roots. Let's be clear, there was never a plan for Hughes to donate money directly to the museum. The plan is for Hughes to purchase the air rights from the city. It needs to add additional bulk at 250 water. The EDC will then donate the money to the museum. Now that the number of air rights needed is reduced, so is the cash payout. There's nothing in writing that I know of to confirm these agreements, just words. So if the museum is not paid, it cannot sue. A fourth big lose. The alternative funding plan is built on a simple concept that cash flows from the historic district, which should flow back to the historic district to preserve it and fund it. This is very similar to the founding funding concept for the district and museum. The ground rents could easily top 3 million a year, then add the sale of air rights. Yet this plan has been ignored by the museum, saying it is not actionable. But I saw an offer by a developer to purchase air rights from the city last March worth 34 million for use outside the historic district. This was the...
Oh, so sorry about that. We do have a 2-minute cutoff, Mr. Eames. I think we can, I think we're going to move on to the next speaker. We're going to do 2 minutes per speaker tonight. Okay, I apologize about that. I know it's always very sudden when you get cut off. Okay, moving along. I'm looking to see if Adrienne Sosin is with us. Yes, she is. Adrienne?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, do you hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that I support the Seaport Coalition's approach to the museum. I was a museum member when the museum was first founded and have lived in Southbridge since 1976. the museum at this point is willing to sell out its own historic district that it should be willing to take care of, and has poorly served the city and its constituents and all those who care about the maritime history of this area, and has become complicit in Howard Hughes's attempt to play New York City and to grab all the money it possibly can and send it back to Texas. It is a terrible, horrible scheme that they have made work for them. And in concert with the real estate interests of this city, they are looking to decimate historic districts, this one and others. So I call on the community board to do whatever it can with the government offices that it can contact to see if they can thwart this. And I call on them to hopefully remove this board. The museum board is very poorly serving its constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and participating. I appreciate that. We're going to move on to, let's see if they are here. I see Jay Hellstrom. Jay, you're going to be, Jay, you don't look like you have your audio hooked up.
Oh, sorry, Tim.
Oh, no, there you go. I hear you. You're in good shape. Jay, you're next.
I'm next?
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, we couldn't.
No. Hi, I thank you for these 2 precious minutes, and I'll try to be concise. I'm reaching out after Sandy and I, who you may hear shortly or perhaps preceded me. Sandy and I have spent a significant, if not bordering on an inordinate amount of time reaching back in history to look at why and how we've become here today. And it is with great anguish that I look at through all the way back to the original 77 beginning of the historic district and up to present, that the museum has been played or used as a pawn, particularly in this set of circumstances of what I call the big bet by HHC, Mayor de Blasio, and the billionaire Bill Aikman. We have looked at this extensively. This scheme that has been before you today has been years in the making. This goes back behind the curtain of secrecy for a significant amount of time. It's only become a known fact within the recent time when we finally were able to get the FOIL requests, and that documents how much of this has been done until it finally became public, and you have that before you today. But those FOIL requests, which were significantly delayed, aided in hindering this process which we are playing today in trying to present this to CB1. Consequently, CB1 again finds itself in this difficult position to preserve our community and its historic port district, while HHC and the lobbyists spend hundreds of thousands of dollars injecting wedge issues before us and between us into our community, such as vacant parking lots or view corridors. I mean, if just no.
I am sorry, Jay, but thank you very, very much for coming and for speaking up. And I encourage you to stay through the chair report for the latest updates. Okay, moving along, I see, let me just double check, Chris Marte. Chris, if we can unmute Chris. Chris, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Great. So I'm here as a founder of NUBC, Neighbors United Below Canal, to give an update on our legal situation and some of the works that the city has been doing. So unfortunately, the city, as many of you know, appealed our ruling in the Supreme Court where we won the right to an injunction and for the city to stop constructing the proposed jails at 124, 125 White Street. Sadly, the city won in the appellate court, reversing our decision. However, NUBC, with our petitioners, we're going to move forward and appeal that decision too, within the appellate court, but also in the Court of Appeals. So this battle is not over. Some more bad news, the city decided to move forward with doing some work on the site. This past weekend, with little notice to stakeholders in the community and late notice to the community board, the city decided to close down the street to do some digging for some test pits and also for some soil boring. This is really unfortunate and disappointing news. The city committed to us in the points of agreement that it will give us time-sensitive updates with a lot of information, and they still haven't answered a lot of the questions that we proposed almost 2 years ago. So I bring some sad news, but also some positive news that we hire additional legal counsel to go forward with our appeal in the Court of Appeals. And I want to thank Community Board 1, the chair, and everyone for always standing with us and being super supportive throughout this really long multi-year process. So thank you again, and I'll give you another update next month.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much for coming. It's pretty much astounding. All right. Let's see. I have Jessica DeMolder. Let me, I see you in the public session. Jennifer, there you go. You are now unmuted. Jessica,
Hi.
welcome.
Can you hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just quickly, I wanted to raise that there have been a number of conversations recently around community safety and the quality of life meetings, understandably so. And I'm really glad that these conversations are being had. But the perspectives on ideas for potential solutions that we've heard are primarily through some discussion on the mayor's proposed charter review commission, a few individual community members, and most conversations are centered on and by NYPD officers who have been invited to these meetings. And so my request is that an invitation to speak on issues related to community safety be extended to well-established groups with expertise in these areas that have very different approaches than those of city government and the police. So for example, Communities United for Police Reform, which is a group that works towards advancing policies that protect the safety and rights of all New Yorkers to create true community safety. And my request for this is so that their perspectives are heard and are inclusive of social justice organizers, advocates, and experts who live and breathe this work day in and day out. And I just think it would be an injustice to not hear their approaches as well. Thank you.
You're on mute.
I'll get there, thanks, sorry. Thank you for joining us, no problem. I'm going through the public list. I have a couple of people who need to speak, and then we have our elected reps. Justine, you signed up to speak. I'm going to have you go. And then
I'm gonna pass.
No.
Timon.
You're going to pass?
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem. So then we're going to hear from Taina from the Downtown Alliance. Taina Prado.
Hi, Tammy.
Hey, welcome.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So I'm here tonight to give a brief statement relating to the resolution before you tonight in reference to our wayfinding improvement proposal. To start, the Alliance takes issue with the notion that the project is motivated by a desire to promote our own brand identity in the district. That is simply untrue. The existing heritage trail markers are literally crumbling and rotting to the ground, which was acknowledged by some committee members at the meeting. We've already had to remove 7 out of the 26 due to decay, public safety concerns, and dictates from the city, leaving only 19 on the street. But we didn't want to just address the pressing need to replace the stanchions. We saw this as an opportunity to modernize the text to better reflect the complex and diverse history. To follow the Public Design Commission guidelines, we engaged a professional historian from the Museum of City of New York to revise the historical content on each marker based on its location and include more inclusive representation of Native Americans, African Americans, and LGBTQ. Separate from the PDC, the board to know that this project was given strong direction from DOT, our agency partner. They asked us to find replacements in kind that replicate the existing stanchions, plaques, and orientation columns, which precludes a design competition. They want the stanchions to look like the existing ones with modern and durable materials. They also feel the logo is important for the public to report maintenance and other issues to us. That said, we heard the committee's feedback and are willing to make changes based on the suggestions. Using Lower Manhattan rather than downtown, minimizing logo size, incorporating more images, and exploring the use of QR codes or a similar digital platform. Given the guidance and restraints provided by DOT to us and the changes we are willing to make, we hope that you will pass a favorable resolution tonight. We are and have been willing stewards of these markers because we believe they serve an important purpose to help people learn more about our rich history and navigate the area with the maps. Hopefully we can replace and update these markers and avoid having to continually remove them due to decay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Taina. Can you stay on for a quick sec?
Absolutely, sure.
I heard what you read and I have some questions.
Sure, okay.
Can you tell me when you are going to PDC so we understand whether or not, what our discussion and timelines are? When is PDC going to review this?
Yes, give me one, I have it here. So our plan is to submit the application to PDC next month in May. They then get a month to review that information, and then we present to the commission in June. And, you know, if approved, hopefully approved, we would then begin installation in the fall, early fall.
So one of the things, I don't know if you can answer this question now, or you can let us know later, is, of course, we'd like to opine. The information you've given tonight is a direct feedback to where we are with the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be an option to come back to the committee in May and not go to PDC until the end of May, so we can review the new information, do a resolution, and then you would go to PDC for your presentation with an updated resolution based on the information you gave us tonight?
Okay, so what I will do is I can't answer you. I need to speak with somebody actually about the process with PDC. I could say that we would be, you know, willing and interested. Obviously, we'd want to go to the PDC with a, you know, a more positive resolution. But I just need to check the process and the timing for that. And then I'm assuming that the committee, the Parks, Waterfront, and Culture Committee is usually towards the end of May. So I can definitely follow up with you and Diana and to do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate that. I can, if you come back, if you hang on for a bit, I can tell you when our May for Waterfront and Parks is.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm happy to hang that.
Hopefully everything would line up, right? So that's sure.
Exactly. So I appreciate that. And then did I hear you correctly?
Yeah.
You saying that you were given specific direction by DOT?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they're our agency partner. They actually will be submitting the application on our behalf. They're the agency that communicates and deals with PDC directly for this project for us. So we do, I guess, the legwork and the facilitating, and they do sort of the heavy lifting with PDC. So we've been working closely with them and the staff there to come up with the plan that would present it to the committee in terms of the design and, you know, the other components with the other wayfinding plaques and the columns. So yes, DOT has been working with us hand in hand, and it is actually them who, you know, presents this information to this proposal rather to PDC.
Did they set the parameters?
Yes. It was made very clear to us that they wanted this, the fact that, you know, this issue came up in terms of the maintenance and replacement came up, that they wanted it to be, referencing replicating the existing design and have it be in kind. So have the three pieces that we're talking about, have them be replaced in kind.
Okay. Thank you very much for the information.
Sure.
Our meeting it gave me an opportunity to check our waterfront Parks and
Okay.
Cultural Committee is May 18th. So if you can get back to us and let
Okay.
us know if there's, it gives us an idea of what we can do in the business session.
And
Okay.
thank you so much. And just maybe since you're looking at the calendar, can you tell me when the full board would be?
The 25th of the month.
Okay, before the holiday.
Yes.
Okay, great. So
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
Sure.
We asked Taina these questions now because during the business session, we're not supposed to ask her questions. So as long as she opened the door and read a lovely statement, thought I'd get it all in there. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Going back to the sign-ins, I believe, let me just check. Wait. All right, we're going to call Roger Byram next.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tammy. I'm speaking on a couple of matters this evening. One, to lodge my total disappointment that we learn about the revised proposal from Howard Hughes Corporation through the New York Times, not through our community liaison at LPC. I'm also very disappointed that when our community liaison at LPC did inform us about the hearing next Tuesday, May the 4th, that they said the public would not be allowed to speak. I strongly urge the board to appeal that decision. There are so many community members who are very upset with this proposal. To be silenced seems totally inappropriate. If, however, we aren't successful in that, I would encourage us to ask everybody to write a statement that can be submitted. Perhaps the office can help, Tammy, before the end of Friday, so that the commissioners see that there's thousands of us still very, very unhappy with this 27 or 25-story building now. And I hope we can act on that. It's despicable that the Landmarks Commission, Preservation Commission, doesn't work closely with the interests of our community, and that's very disappointing. Secondly, I do support, as other people have spoken, the resolution on the South Street Seaport Museum and the alternative funding options. I actually was part of that group when I was on the board that pitched this to Manhattan Borough President and Council Member Chim, and it was very, very disappointing to see that they did have little or no interest in this proposal. And I encourage us to all support this resolution, because it's not over till it's over, and Howard Hughes may not be around, just as General Grove was around 10 years ago, or whenever it was. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am double checking through my list to make sure we've gotten everybody who has signed up. Just got okay. I'm not sure who sounded like Minnie Mouse on there, but that's okay. I'm not sure. Emily Hellstrom. Can you unmute Emily, please? Jen?
One moment. Hello, can you hear me?
I can. There were two Hellstroms who signed up, and I wasn't sure if one of them was you, so I apologize.
Yeah, it was me. My parents were having a hard time getting in, but while I'm here, I just wanted to say, first of all, as always, thank you so much to all community boards, but to you all in particular. You have been given certainly an incredible amount of things to process and public processes. I would like to speak. I went to the Parks and Waterfront Committee and listened to the presentation. I feel like the Community Board 1 has spent decades trying to preserve the seaport, the historic seaport. And I feel like, the Howard Hughes Corporation and the EDC have piled a lot of stuff, sort of closed it behind backroom doors. And I feel like it's very unfair to the community. And it was really a breath of fresh air to hear that there are people who were bringing this to light, and that the community board would put forward such a really wonderful resolution, which can really get the museum out of underneath the foot of the EDC, and finally be on the side of the community, which it always has been. So I thank you all for the work that you're doing, and I hope that when you vote on the resolution tonight, you'll keep in mind the presentation, and if you haven't seen the presentation, to please view it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe Bruce is next. Bruce, did you get your audio fixed? Bruce, you might have. Bruce, you sound like Minnie Mouse. We can't hear you, so you may need to try another audio. And I apologize for laughing. All right, we're going to go to, since I see Bruce looks like he may have needed to log out and in, we're going to move on to our elected representatives who are here to speak. And goodness gracious. Okay, so we will start with State Assembly Member Eulene's office. I think Claudia's with us.
Hello, Tammy. Can everyone hear me?
We can, Claudia. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Claudia from Assembly Member News Office. Being mindful of the time limit, I have submitted a copy of our board report to CB1 earlier today, and I hope that folks can take some time to read through it. It does contain more of what came through in the state budget. It was just going to be too much for me to cram it into 2 minutes. But on a special note, the Assembly member wanted to share that with advocacy as well as community organizations, we were able to secure $10 million in funding to support programs and organizations that are working to combat bias-based crimes, as well as $3 million to fund data disaggregation and ensure that API New Yorkers are better represented in our state data and allow more accurate and targeted relief to reach the folks who are currently overlooked by our data collection methods. So Eulene knows that there's still much more that we have to do for long-term structure work to address a lot of the greater needs of the communities of colors and migrant communities devastated by the pandemic, and she'll still continue to work forward on this. For this month, I also wanted to make a quick mention about Department of Labor. We are seeing an increase in cases as a lot of residents are reaching their benefit year ending. Depending on the situation, someone may have to file a new claim, and we have been doing our best to try to minimize the gap in benefits during their transition. If you do have cases, friends and colleagues who are kind of in that middle spot, please send it over to any of the state reps. We are happy to troubleshoot with DOL regarding this. Thank you, everyone, and please send me any questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to Chantel from Senator Kavanaugh's office. I understand that he had a last-minute change and was going to be here, but is still stuck upstate. Chantel?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tammy, for being so gracious. I just wanted to let everyone know my 5-year-old colleague has no decorum, so he might be yelling in the background.
I apologize for laughing. I think many of us have been here, so yeah, keep going.
So for everyone's knowledge, the Senate is advancing Bill S6362, which extends the COVID-19 Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Prevention Act of 2020. This broadly serves to prevent evictions, to protect against foreclosure and tax lien sales for residential property owners, to prohibit negative credit reporting and discrimination in extending credit, and enacts an extension on the COVID-19 Emergency Protect Our Small Business Act. As you might know, the Senate majority passed a budget that invests $2.4 billion in the COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program, providing up to 12 months of arrears for rent and utilities, 3 prospective months of rent, a year of eviction protection, and eligibility for households up to 80% of AMI for federal funding, regardless of immigration status. Just a note on additional legislation, Bill 5742, sponsored by Senator Anna Kaplan, will also be advanced, which expands protections in the COVID-19 Emergency Protect Our Small Business Act of 2021 to include businesses with up to 100 employees or up to 500 employees if the business was shut down by state order for 2 or more weeks between May 15th, 2020 and May 1st, 2021. Tomorrow, the Democratic majority will move to suspend several executive orders placed by the governor at the peak of the pandemic, including the repeal of sale of food with alcoholic beverage requirement, transparency for individuals assisting in COVID operations, and timely and accurate administration of vaccines. And then as far as local issues are concerned, the senator continues to support and advocate for the safety of our AAPI neighbors. And just as a separate note, Senator Gennardis will be hosting a bystander intervention training on Thursday that I can drop in the link as well. And that is all for now. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And my email is cabrera@nysenate.gov, and I'll throw that in the chat as well.
Tammy, I have a question I'd like to ask Chantel, please, quickly.
Sure.
Hi, Chantel. This is Mitchell Froman.
Hi, Mitch.
I had mentioned the red tape snafu about the COVID, the rent relief, where they're still basing it on when the PUA was $600, not $300 for the months of April to June of last year. That's history. That $600 put a lot of thousands and thousands of people, a few percentage points disqualified them over the limit. But so it really needs to be what it is now, because the rent hasn't changed, but the PUA has changed. And if there's something that said in the cabinet could do, because it can't be based on money that was, in fact, I think that's why they took those months, because that's when people were getting $600. And that was only for a short period of time, but the rent stays the same the rest of the year.
Understood. Mitch, can you throw that? I know we've interfaced before, so can you just throw that highlight for me in an email, and I'll make sure to pass it on to our legislative team?
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Chantel, so much. I don't see any other hands for her, so let's keep rolling. I understand Hannah's here. Hannah Wienerman, are you here, Hannah? Hannah, you're unmuted. Maybe. With Hannah having audio issues, we can always come back to her. Let's move to Cora and then Luke Wolf from Councilmember Stringer's office. Hannah, just text the host and let us know when you're ready. Cora?
Thank you, Tammy. Hello, everyone. Member Chin's office, Cora. In response to the 250 Water strike, the street site, May 4th is the hearing. We will ask directly from LPC about what Roger Byron just said, and I'll get back to you all. For Governors Island rezoning, our office is still reviewing the rezoning proposal. The vote will be with the City Council's Land Use Subcommittee on May 11th. It's a Tuesday. And on Earth Day, the council passed a package of bills to strengthen the city's environmental protection laws, including banning usage of pesticides at all New York City parks. In terms of the other legislation, the Reso 1772, Councilmember Chin was an original co-sponsor that is to call upon the United States to pass and the President to sign the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act of 2021 is in the federal level. Councilmember Chin also held two oversight hearing with the Department for the Aging and the Veterans Committee on how DFTR is specifically addressing concerns facing senior veterans. At the local level on Warren Street, the residents at 99101 still have a lot of concerns with the cargo bite. 225 Rector Place, we're helping tenants, they're facing evictions. Landlord used to Supreme Court papers at the state level. With the homeless shelter at 105 Washington Street, thank you CB1 and the chairperson, Tammy. Councilmember Chin think it's a great idea that we actually connect local stakeholders individually, having individual conversation. So we started with ISPS 276 with the school, PTAs, and the small businesses. We're going to have the individual conversation.
Thank you, Cora, very much. And thank you for your willingness to engage with small groups in the community in that manner. Luke Wolf, you're next. And then I'm checking to see if Hannah is set afterwards. Luke?
Everyone, Luke Wolf from City Controller Scott Stringer's office here. It's nice to see you all. In honor of Earth Day, which was last week, I want to share some of the controller's recent climate-related work, which I all know is super important for this board, and it's just generally very important that New York City remain a leader in the climate movement. So first, Controller Stringer last month was very proud to announce that the pension will more than double its climate change solutions investments to more than $6 billion. This accompanies more than $4 billion of divestment from fossil fuel companies, which was announced also this year. So this new $6 billion investment will focus on climate mitigation, adaptation, renewable energy, and other companies which are pushing goals aligned with the Paris Climate Accords. So we're really excited about the $6 billion investment combined with the $4 billion divestment to make sure that New York City pensions remain a global leader in this field. Second, the controller was really proud to lead a letter of 26 city and state elected officials, including some of your local representatives like Senator Kavanaugh, to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, calling on the government to reject an extension of the permits for the Williams pipeline. So this letter follows the state's denial of the pipeline due to health and safety threats and more than 16,000 public comments in opposition to the pipeline, and emphasized the importance of rejecting energy policies that have resulted in decades of fossil fuel pollution and environmental harm. And instead, we should really be spending our money and resources investing in renewable sources of energy that are efficient to meet the growing demand and achieve increased electrification. Lastly, on the non-climate front, we have been diligently investigating the city's COVID response, especially in those early days. And today our office showed an audit that the city lost millions of dollars in unsuccessful attempts to purchase ventilators during an initial surge in March 2020. So what we found was that Global, which was a business that was formed less than 2 weeks before the city actually made the deal, did not deliver a single ventilator and did not deliver millions of dollars even after protracted litigation to try to get it back. So this was a deal that was made with no price competition. They didn't deliver any goods. There was no assessment of business history, no signed contract. And after revealing kind of the boondoggle today, we are once again urging the mayor to rescind the emergency procurement guidelines and allow the controller's office to resume our normal procurement work to make sure the city can reduce the sort of waste and abuse. So just a few updates from our office, and I hope everyone has a nice evening.
Thank you, Luke, very, very much. Bruce Ehrman, do you have your audio fixed?
Can you hear me?
I can. It sounds much better. Thank you very much.
For some reason, it never works on my desktop. This is my tablet. Hi. So I just wanted to chime in on the 250 Water Street issue. I assumed that based on the last LPC meeting, that it would be a real heavy lift at this point, that the horse is out of the barn. But I am really surprised that the LPC, as of what, today, this afternoon, deems it of little consequence, therefore is not having an open testimony hearing. I would say it sounds to me like a done deal. And this is the point at which there's very little that conventional democratic forms can deal with something like this. I mean, this now takes on the characteristics of something I think we are at this late juncture ill-equipped to do, which is, nonviolent demonstration, protest. Clearly, they have decided to shut down communication, essentially, and we're left in a very difficult position. I appreciate Councilmember Chin arguing to try to have a public hearing, as I understood it just now. of course, the Congress, the councilwoman is for the construction, as I understand it. Is someone responding? I'm sorry. Anyway, okay. So we're really in a very difficult position. We've had Paul Goldberger testify in favor of this proposal last time, which was even bigger. Michael Sorkin, arguably the greatest architecture critic in the last 50 years, who died of COVID a few years ago, said that Paul Goldberger, I can't repeat it because it's off color, but he said it in print. He will easily go where the wind blows. So I'm just stating that we can resist, but I'm in a quandary as to how to affect this change.
Bruce. Thank you. All right, because you went over, but we didn't need you.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're going to do Megan Malvern, Joanne Gorman, and then we will close the public session. We do have two of our elected representatives on tonight. So we're going to start with Megan Malvern. I believe, Megan, are you 917733? Is that you? Hello.
Yeah, yep, that's me. Can you hear me?
I can.
You got me?
Yep, you're in.
I'll make it quick. I hope that the resolution regarding the South Street Seaport Museum and the funding is voted as favorably as it was in the subcommittee. It's a real smart way, and it's an important step in making sure that our Seaport district is given the respect it deserves from higher ups on down. And I think that a lot of the information that was brought out at the last meeting really pointed out to what I believe is just flat out corruption. And I look forward to seeing what we can do as a community to further rally and, to Bruce's point, make sure that everyone understands how upsetting this is. Thank you, Community Board 1. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Megan. Joanne Gorman, you're going to be next. And if once you've spoken, if you can take your hand down, that'd be highly appreciated. Joanne? Jen, can you unmute Joanne, please? Thank you. Joanne, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Indeed, we can.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just want to real quickly, I support the funding proposals for the South Street Seaport Museum proposed by the Seaport Coalition. And to Roger Byron's point about landmarks shutting out the public voice, I think it's ridiculous that they're allowing a 23-foot reduction to allow Howard Hughes to control what's going on with the next meeting. And I hope Community Board 1 will at least send some message to the Landmarks Commission on this issue. We figured out that they would try to do something small like this to shut us out, and that's exactly what they've done. And I think we all have to write to the landmarks and say it's absolutely for such an important, controversial issue that they would allow this to happen is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with that, I appreciate everyone's dialogue tonight. We're going to end the public session. We do have two of our elected representatives with us tonight. So Hannah, I am not calling on you because we have the congressman. So the way we now work with the community board session is we close the public session at 6:51. We start the business session with approval of the minutes, and then we will have Congressman Nadler and our Manhattan Borough President speak immediately afterwards. Okay, so can I have the agenda up? If not, I think we all know the minutes have gone out. If I could get a motion to approve the minutes.
Make session.
Great. So moved, seconded, and then if we do a affirmation, so we will assume everybody is a yay unless I hear otherwise. So do I hear any nays, abstentions, or recusals? Thank you for approval of the minutes, and welcome Congressman Nadler. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be with you all this evening. I'll be brief, but I want to provide just a few short updates. President Biden signed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan into law back in March. This historic bill contains many measures that are already beginning to help Americans across the country. It provides a third round of $1,400 stimulus payments. It extends unemployment insurance, pandemic unemployment assistance, and federal supplemental benefits through September 6th. It cuts child poverty in half by expanding the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. It bolsters housing assistance through an additional $21.5 billion in emergency rental assistance on top of the $25 billion that was secured in December for renters currently struggling to pay rent or not up to date on their rent payments because of the pandemic. In New York, these funds will be administered through the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance. It helps cooperators through the $10 billion Homeowner Assistance Fund, which provides assistance with mortgages and other expenses like common charges to help keep people in their homes. The rescue plan provides $1.25 billion in additional funding for the shuttered venue operator grants. The application for this program is now live on the SBA website. And it provides $25 billion for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which offers up to $10 million in direct grants to restaurants and other food service establishments. Registration for the application portal will begin on Friday, this Friday, and applications will open next Monday on the SBA website. The rescue plan also includes funding to expand the Affordable Care Act for the first time. It delivers much needed funds to state and local governments, including $24 billion for New York State. The next phase of the administration's Build Back Better plan is the American Jobs Plan. This ambitious $2 trillion plan would contain robust funds necessary to overhaul the country's crumbling infrastructure. It includes $621 billion for fixing highways, rebuilding bridges, upgrading ports and airports, and another $85 billion to modernize existing transit systems. Climate change poses a looming threat to our infrastructure systems, something New Yorkers know only too well as we deal with the long-term devastation from Hurricane Sandy. I helped lead the effort to push the Biden administration to ensure that large-scale climate resiliency and flood protection investments were included in this package. Among many other provisions, the infrastructure bill also includes investing $40 billion to address longstanding public housing capital needs and improve the infrastructure of the public housing system across the country. Investing $100 billion to upgrade and build new public schools to ensure our schools are safe and healthy places of learning, investing in workforce development and creating jobs of the future, creating jobs and raising wages for essential home care workers, addressing historical inequities, racial inequities, by providing better jobs and better transportation options to underserved communities. As we get more information about this infrastructure package, we'll make sure to update the community board. Lastly, I wanted to highlight a few other pieces of legislation that I'm working on, which may be of interest. I am fighting for the SALT Deductibility Act, which seeks to restore the full state and local tax or SALT deduction on taxpayers' federal income tax returns. I'm old enough to remember when SALT stood for strategic arms limitation talks, but now it's the state and local tax deduction. I reintroduced the African Burial Ground International Memorial Museum and Education Center Act, which would establish a museum and education center at the African Burial Ground in Lower Manhattan. Establishing a museum is an important part of our ongoing fight for equality and justice in the country. We cannot successfully fight for equality without a clear understanding of the history of slavery and sharing the untold stories of those who helped build New York in the face of unbearable hardships, discrimination, and of course, exploitation. Most people, I think, don't know that we had slavery in New York till the early 1800s. I reintroduced the Improving Helicopter Safety Act that would impose stricter regulations on helicopter flights over New York. The House passed the Access to Counsel Act last week, and the Judiciary Committee passed the No Ban Act. These bills are crucial to removing discriminatory practices and protecting the due process rights of all individuals who seek to lawfully enter the United States. I will continue to fight to ensure that these bills are signed into law. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll leave it there. More detailed information regarding the specific measures within the American Rescue Plan can be found on my website by going to https:/nadler.house.gov/coronavirus resources or calling my office. As always, please do not hesitate to reach out to my staff if we can be of any assistance.
Is it possible to ask the congressman a question?
Well, Bruce, if you would not interrupt me, I would have asked him if he had a moment to stay.
Sure,
So I could
sure.
ask for questions, as is our protocol. So yes, Bruce. Congressman, do you have a couple moments to stay for questions?
Sure.
Thank you. Bruce, did you have one?
Why? How did you know? So I saw you gavel down Jim Jordan and that failed science experiment, Louis Gohmert, on their racist attacks on the floor against Maxine Waters, but they would not stop. Isn't there some way when someone is making a direct racist attack on a congressperson to usher them out of the room?
Well, first of all, if I was gaveling down, that was not on the floor, it was in committee.
I'm sorry, in committee, yes, indeed.
No, there is not. I can gavel it down. The rules require them to, you may have heard me say the gentleman will suspend, or
Yes.
the gentlelady will suspend. What that means is you're supposed to be quiet. There's no physical way of enforcing that. So you just bang the gavel and eventually I got them quiet. And we
Okay.
could proceed with the proper proceedings.
Thank you.
And don't I wish I could do that in here. All right, let's see if there are any other hands up. I see Francis Curtis. You are next.
Yes. Congressman, thank you very much for all the important work that you do. I'm specifically interested in the legislation that you have proposed for the African burial ground, and would just like to know if your staff could keep us appraised of what's going on in Community Board 1, and so we could have some sort of participation in whatever the development is going to turn out to be, if that's possible.
Sure. I'll tell them that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. I see Justine Kucha with her hand up. She's next. Justine.
Thanks, Tammy. Congressman Nadler, I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing. And Francis took my question out of my mouth. I was going to ask, thank you for doing the African burial ground, putting that forward. And I do just second what she's saying, but thank you for everything that you're doing for us.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
We'll give props to to Hannah, who's our contact for your office, because she's been really responsive. So thank you
definitely
as well. All right. I don't see any other hands up from Community Board 1 members. Great. So Congressman, we incredibly appreciate your time and your patience and your energy. I don't know where you get it. You seem to be everywhere all at once. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And with that, we'll move to our esteemed Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer. Gail, welcome.
Thank you very much. There are many things going on. I want to say what I said, I think, even before the mayor announced his budget of $98 billion, that it's great, thanks to the congressman and the majority leader, that we have this funding coming to the city of New York. But we really have to pay attention to it, whether it's the schools, the small businesses, etc. So I assume, because I know how great Community Board 1 is doing that, but I just want to reemphasize it. We are pleased about the social workers, 600, I think, social workers hired at the Department of Education to be. We'll see how it's framed. Will there be one culturally appropriate in every school, which is what we've asked for, but that would be incredibly good. That's one example. I also want to just say that there are lots of opportunities for 16 years and older to get a vaccine. I think everybody on this call probably has one, but we are still low in terms of those who have gotten vaccines, and we're also still focused on the homebound. I think the one that's closest to you is Essex Crossing. We have on our website all of the ones that are open at this time, and of course the Javits now, as of today, it's 16 and older also, just in terms of that issue. I also want to mention that in terms of the summer, I think you know that there will be summer school. The mayor has made a big deal of it. What we're doing is we are sending to all of the folks in the Department of Education, superintendent, and we can certainly send to you a list of all the nonprofit arts organizations in the neighborhood. And I'm hoping, since they have money at the Department of Education for every school to spend money on the summer, that the arts organizations participate in getting some funding and also provide their great services to the students. So the idea is to try to get more students back so that they will then be comfortable coming in September. The other issue for the schools, as you know, is high school graduation, outdoors. We gave the whole list to the Parks Department and to the schools and said, could you please work this out? And the schools have been great. I have to say the Parks Department has been saying no to a lot of places. Students want to graduate in person because they want to walk across, particularly high school. Some parents have not graduated high school. They want to see their kids graduate high school. So just so you know, we're working hard to try to pull that off. Today we had, as we do every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Last week it was Lorraine Grillo, who is the recovery czar for the city of New York, and she went through what they're focused on, trying to get people back to work, opening up the schools, vaccines. And today we focused on trying to open up senior centers. I had a press conference. We expected 2 seniors to show up. 54 showed up because they want their senior center open. It's such a, I can't describe the isolation feeling, the lack of scratch food feeling, etc. And I think the senior center directors are the best in terms of making sure that people are safe. They've been doing that for years. So any support you have for getting the senior centers open would be appreciated. I've talked to the all the different agencies and the mayor personally, so they're working on it, but that's not good enough for me. I would say that this month, they specifically, they need to be open for so many mental health and other reasons for the seniors. I also just want to mention that I know that we're all concerned about what's going to happen with the voting. So we're doing May 11th. The ranked choice voting. I know others have done it, but you never get enough information. It's going to be May 11th, 6:30 to 8. The information will be on our website. I know you're concerned, and I all about Governor's Island, which is a big project, and certainly 250 Water Street. On Governor's Island, I really appreciate the work that you did. I think that I don't know what's going to happen. I hope that it is not such a large building and that it is more in context. You and I, some members, disagree about 250 Water Street. The New York Times tomorrow has a huge story on the topic. I think you should read it. Michael Kimmelman wrote it. It's online tonight, but it'll be in the Times, I assume, tomorrow. I know it's online tonight. I too will join. I will join Councilmember Chin in trying to get the May 4th opened up. I didn't know that it wasn't, and I didn't know that it was an issue until tonight. So I'd be glad to work on that. Thank you very much, Tammy Meltzer as chair and the entire community board number 1.
Thank you, Gail Brewer. We appreciate you coming every month. It's very kind. Let's see if there are hands up for you, if you have a couple moments for questions. I think I have a quiet board tonight. Oh, no, Roger. Oh, no, Roger, you can't. Sorry. You're a public member. Hate to do that to you. Bob Schneck. Bob, you're unmuted. I can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted, what happened is I was looking very carefully at this resolution, and then I noticed that the museum holdings were reduced from 83,000 square feet down to 49,100 square feet. I also noticed that the HHC made a profit of $183 million. And I also noticed that the NYCEDC starved the museum for the past decade by pocketing income from the Piers and HHC lease sites. So it seemed to me as though from the beginning, the museum was supposed to have these cash flows and assets, and Borough President Brewer, it feels to me like this is some act of corruption, that they got cheated out of this. Did they get cheated out of this? And am I misunderstanding what happened here?
Well, I would say to you, Bob, and I will make it very clear that the museum needs to get what was originally promised, which is the 50 million. I don't care what the size of the building is. I've said from the beginning, Howard Hughes has plenty of money. You just listed it. And of course, if you look at some of their investors, they have even more. And in terms of, ongoing support, which would include some of the properties that the museum is supposed to have control over, just so you know, we're working hard to get that to be part of the deal. I don't know. I mean, I will certainly include it in whatever I write, and I hope that the council member does also. We will not, I will make, this is a deal to make the museum whole, both for money that they have in reserve and of course so they can raise money to build their building. I don't know how else to say it. So I'm aware of what you just told me, and we are very aware to make sure that whatever positive of the museum promised in the past will be part of this deal.
I just wanted to say that this just feels like corruption to me, and I'm very glad you're on top of it for us.
I'm very much on top of it. Thank you.
So let's see if anyone else has some questions. I have one for you before you go.
Sure.
All right. So thank you very much. I see no other hands, so I'm going to go next, and appreciate your patience. One, thank you very much. We did send an email to LPC to request that the May 4th hearing be open to the public, and received an email back today saying that it would not be. It's in my chair's report, but in case you're not here, I take a bit of umbrage at their comment that it is not substantial. There is substantial interest and substantial due diligence and responsibility, and I do think that if you can help us ensure that the hearing is public, that would be great. And then one of the other things that's come to light recently was that the money that's going to be supposedly for the museum is actually sort of circuitously not necessarily Howard Hughes only. It's from the sale of the air rights.
Correct.
So the question is, are they guaranteed the sale of those air rights, or will those go to public auction and process? There are, as you well know, there was another party who was interested in purchasing the air rights that came to us in March of 2020. So my question is, will the sale of air rights be a public process?
A good question. I know, this is what I know, Tammy, is I know who the other entity was, because we were very active with your committee in, when other sites were suggested, we called the different owners, we found the right one, we put them in touch with Paul, we did all that. So I'm very familiar with the other person. There will be several layers of air rights, because the ones that are being purchased by Howard Hughes are not all air rights. They might have been in the past with a larger building, but they won't be for this particular building. But I will find out about how the public auction works. This other entity, when we spoke to them, they weren't sure. I'm just letting you know, this was my experience, that they would be interested in working with the museum, because they never heard of the museum. So it wasn't that they didn't want to, they just didn't know about the museum. It wasn't something that was in their knowledge base. So let me find out about the public auction, but I just want to let you know there will be more air rights for purchase.
I think my question comes because the way it was explained and what we saw was that the fund would actually be set up through EDC for the museum, and it wasn't Howard Hughes, so it doesn't necessarily make a difference in that respect then who purchases the air rights, whether or not they're interested in helping the museum. If that's an EDC based fund to do with the proceeds from the sale, then it, from our perspective, it didn't make a difference who was paying for the air rights. It makes a difference that EDC is held to their accountability to set that up. And that is something that has not been clearly identified for the public, which is a concern.
Okay, I hear you. I mean, I think the other group wasn't clear either that they would work with the museum. I'm just saying that was my impression. But let me find out. I understand what you're saying. I can understand what you're saying.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very, very much.
You're very
And with no other questions, I graciously thank you very much for your time and your attention, as always, popping into all the meetings that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we're going to move on to our treasurer's report. Mariama, let's put the slide up if we have one, please. Thank you.
Hi, I am here. I'm driving. Before anybody asks, the answer is yes. I pick up my youngest child on Tuesday nights, which is why I'm always driving during the meeting, just to for anybody wondering what the heck I'm doing. Good treasurer's report, because this year we had, as early as February to present, the mayor announcing less and less cuts that he thought that we were going to have to experience this year. We are not. The governor did the same thing, I believe, on April 6th. He published the budget, and there are a lot less cuts that than were expected. So we, of course, benefit from that as well, not only as members of the community board, but in general in our personal lives. So for the board, as promised, I did make the good faith effort. I gave it the old college try to find out the legality as to alternative revenue options for the board, other ways that we could attempt to earn money since we're unable to have our street fairs. We've been unable, and that was unsuccessful. I was unable to even get anybody on the phone about it, unfortunately. So the very positive thing is that it's not as needed, because the feds came through to the state, and the state came through to the city, so the city's coming through to us. It's a trickle down, possibly the only time trickle down economics has worked, at least in my opinion. Anyway, we paid out the balance of a consultant's bill that is done, and we have about $1,500. Again, I'm not looking at the actual budget because I'm in my car, but it was about $1,500 left to pay one of the temps, and the temp contract as a whole still needs to be paid out, but that is already budgeted and allocated. So if nothing else pops up before the last quarter, we should have around $94,000 that rolls over into the next fiscal year. And that's my report, unless anybody has any questions or anything.
Let's see if there are any hands up for you, Mariama. With no hands up, thank you very much. Drive safely.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Be back for the vote. All right, Lucian Reynolds, thank you so much. You're up.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. I'm gonna switch over to my notes now. Hello, Community Board 1 and the public of Lower Manhattan. I'm going to give my April remarks here. I want to start with a big thank you to Frances Curtis for organizing a presentation from Memorial Sloan Kettering at her Health and Human Services Subcommittee meeting. The recording of the presentation is on our YouTube site. So I'll place a link for that in the chat, and I encourage everyone to watch that presentation and share it widely. So really good information there. Moving on, the office will officially be open on May 3rd. We will not be accepting walk-ins, so please do not physically come to the office, but we will be there to answer the phone and access our archives and have a physical presence there 4 days a week. There will only be one CB1 person there at a time. This is to maximize social distancing and office comfort. And the remainder of the staff will be working every day, but doing so remotely from their homes, presumably. So next, there will be a transition to a new phone system that was just beginning before the pandemic lockdown. The phone system, the old number for the office is on a PBX line, and the city was trying to move completely over to VoIP, VoIP. So we are part of that since we are in a city building. We're waiting for more information from the city on when we should transition completely to the new phone number. But in preparation for that, we will begin blasting the new phone contact information in May. We currently have both phones on our desks, but I will attempt to have everyone start using the new number starting in May, so that when the city does come in and take all the old phones away, both all the members, public members, and the public will hopefully know how to contact us. We'll be using all of our different channels, websites, newsletters, and social media to announce that change and how to contact us. It'll also be on all of our email signatures. Lastly, and this is a little bit depressing, the mayor released his executive budget this week. And so I dug in deep today and I conferred with a couple DMs. And I'm sorry to say that the proposed budget for community boards is a bit worse than the budget hit that we took over the pandemic. It will be up to the city council to restore our budget to pre-COVID levels. I'll have more to say about this next month after I consult with the rest of the Manhattan district managers. All the community boards' baseline budget is the same Lower Manhattan and Marine Park in Brooklyn. It's all the same. Some boards have a little bit more money because they pay rent. We do not pay rent. We're in the city building. So it's not always apples to apples, but I will confer with them because we need to build a district manager strategy. This is, unfortunately, our budgets are not, according to the mayor, not reflecting the improved financial position that the city is in. And it does not reflect the services that community boards provide to a city that is returning to normal. So more on that later, and I'll be probably in touch with our leadership about more about this when I get more information. So thank you all. Tammy, back to you.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Lucian?
Yes.
Bruce, you got to learn how to use your hand.
Oh, where is the hand thing on this? I know how to use it on Zoom, but I don't see it here. Okay, there's a hand somewhere.
Okay,
I'll find it.
Go.
Lucian, what happened to the mayor's stalking horse parallel community board of his own choosing? What happened to that? Is that being funded? Do you remember that? That was passed into law?
You mean like the NAC that was set up for the Manhattan Detention Complex discussion?
No. There was. He set up a series of community boards, not called as such advisory boards, that were to consider issues similar to the community board. Only he was appointing all the members in each district. Maybe you're not familiar with it.
I think it was Civic Engagement Commission.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Diana just texted me that too. Yes, the Civic Engagement Commission. I didn't check to see what their funding levels are. The Civic Engagement Commission is active. I can't say that they're producing anything that's of direct use at this moment. We checked in before the pandemic, and they were doing a lot of assessments and just asking lots of questions. And we were, we checked in during the pandemic, and I was pleading with them to help us get an executive order to make it clear that we could meet remotely for longer, and then I never heard from them again. So I'm not thrilled with whatever they're doing at this moment, but they are still a thing. There's a director and a couple staff members, but I can't say more about it because they haven't checked in for quite some time, maybe almost a year now.
Okay, thank you.
I think that does bear merit, Lucian. We do need to check on that because I am sure that the community board will have an opinion if those engagement commissions were funded at the expense for community boards.
That's a great point. Sure, I'll look into that.
Okay. All right. I see no other hands. Mariama. Go ahead, Mariama. Oh, she took her hand down. That went fast. Nope, it's back up. Mariama, go ahead.
No, nothing. I was going to ask a question, but I think it was kind of answered with Bruce's. but and also I guess I might as well mention, since I'm on, then I guess trickle down economics is still 0 for 0.
Yeah.
Did we get a point?
Well, Marianne, but what I will say is that this is the, and the budget process is so important for us. We're just getting into the beginning of it, and this is the kickoff with the mayor's executive budget. The council will respond, but we need to inform them of our priorities, both in operating and capital. So, our budget is completely within the realm of operating, and we just have to be very clear to both the mayor and to the council about how we provide services and expand on the services provided by other agencies of the city. And so I just look forward to working with all of you on that.
Okay, same here. Thank you.
Okay. So moving on, we'll go to my chair report. Thank you, Lucian, very, very much. All right, so here we are. Welcome to Lower Manhattan again. I'd like everyone to pay attention. The photo on the left is midday on Broadway on a Saturday, not a car in sight, basically. And then we welcome the Ducks back in Battery Park City. They're making some nice progress on the Brooklyn Bridge. And of course, the city looks beautiful at night. It's nice to be out in warmer weather. Next slide. Next. Okay, so meetings since last month. We did a collaboration with the community boards, pricing out mom and pop small businesses related to housing gentrification at the end of last month. I was at the Hudson River Park Advisory Council. Again, I can't say enough. Every time they talk about the Five Seaport Climate Resiliency Plan, people should come and ask questions. Francis Curtis has done an amazing job going to our mayor's testing and tracing. Thank you so much. We have the first Precinct Community Council meeting. Thank you so much to board members who have been attending. And then we have some really great news about a meeting that we had with BMCC. We are happy to say that we are co-sponsoring an event on June 17th. Its tentative title is The Untold History of African Americans and Native Americans in Lower Manhattan. We are still working on the details with them, but we are delighted to say that the president has confirmed his availability for the day, for the evening. It'll be an evening session run via BMCC and co-sponsored. If you have any questions, reach out to Lucian, and as we get more details, we will share it with everybody. But we're shooting for June 17th. And we continue our collaborations with some of the other community boards in looking at citywide, borough-wide issues. Next slide. Okay, looking ahead. We are still, though some executive orders have been canceled, we are still on virtual meetings. So stick your cameras on because I'd certainly love to see all of you. The end of this month, we're going to do, there's a 5 World Trade Center Community Advisory Council meeting that has been scheduled. The CAC, as they call it, for 5 World Trade Center is new. I'll have more information for everybody at the next executive meeting for what that will entail. And through lots of pressure and great communication, we finally have a walkthrough with DOT for the Brooklyn Bridge banks and the dugout this month. Next month, you've heard about it already, 250 Water Street. The LPC sent me a note saying that they didn't believe, after we asked for public review for May 4th, that it was not substantively different from the previous presented proposals, which for them means no more public hearings. And that they suggested to us that we encourage people to do written comments to LPC in them, and I am saying the mayor's office, sent by 5 o'clock on Friday. You can certainly do it on Monday as well. We hope that they will reopen that publicly. I honestly don't know what will happen. I am very gratified that both Councilmember Chin and Manhattan Borough President Brewer are going to ask for the same. I do not think that the timing is that you should bank on it. I think everyone who cares, no matter what your position is, should send written commentary. And that's that beautiful building that you see on the bottom. Beautiful. All right. The governor's island.
Can I ask a question about that? If you finish that subject.
Wait to the end, and then I'll get everybody for questions. Okay. Governor's Island City Council vote is May 11th. And Battery Park City Authority is bringing their plans for Wagner, Pier A, and resiliency to the top of the battery with a complete rebuild to PDZ. Their submission is May 28th. So their schedule for that project starts Q1 2022 to completely redevelop those 3 zones. Hot topics for May. If you are interested in congestion pricing, we will be doing a resolution in transportation. Please, I encourage you, come to the meeting. If you don't know when it is, check with the office. Citywide planning resolution, that'll be in transportation. Citywide planning resolution plus 2 citywide zoning text amendments will be coming to us in May for land use zoning and economic development. Busy time. In the works, we did place a FOIL request for information on 240 Greenwich Street. And we were told this month, we requested the information before May, and we were told that we will now have to wait till July. So we have not forgotten, but that's where we are. We are working with the Borough President's Office to renew the independent contract, the independent environmental consultant, and the contract for 250 Water Street. Don't have any updates yet, but we are working with them. We have asked, we continue to check. And then we were notified that 250 Water Street is expected in June for ULERT. So that, I think, is the end of my, oh, no. Yeah, that's the end of my slides. So now we'll go for questions. Mark, you're on.
Thank you. So two things. In regards to Transportation Committee, and this should go for all the committees, we're going to do a resolution on congestion pricing. Again, reiterate, I don't want to have like a 3-page draft resolution written by 1 or 2 people. This issue is too important. It should be sought out organically and written organically at the committee, not fighting an uphill battle of what somebody else wrote that hasn't been voted on yet. So
well,
I hope that in this situation that we're going to do that.
Let me answer you. The good news is the committee has been working on congestion pricing for months. And there is a long list that has been worked on with bullet points in committee. And those bullet points will be shared with everyone.
Okay, that's different than having a formatted whereas resolution. If we can have bullet points that these were discussed, please do it that way. Please. That's the right way to do it.
Tammy, you were interrupted and I wanted to hear the end of your sentence. You said bullet points and then what else did you say?
Thank you, Bruce. Transportation has worked very hard on this. They have a whole list that has been worked on in committee of bullet points for where people have discussed topics and come to some sort of general position left or right. That will be shared with the full board prior to the Transportation Committee meeting. If you are interested, show up. If you don't agree with what's said, show up. But know that the work is done in committee, and it doesn't make a difference if everybody agrees. It does not. What makes a difference is that we get things on paper, we have a majority vote, and we move forward. Whether you like it or not, congestion pricing is here. So just saying, I don't want it, I want nothing, is might as well just stick your head in the sand. That's not going to happen. All right?
Well, I mean, person could have that opinion if they want. So, but as long as it's not being.
Mark, you're getting muted. Mark, you're getting muted.
Can you hear me?
No, we're going to mute you.
I have a second point.
Then you will wait until everybody is called on.
Well, I thought I was called on.
You were done.
I was not done. No, I'm not done. I said I had 2 issues to talk about.
Mark,
and in regards to the LPC, I guess all our years of tiptoeing around criticizing them is, it was irrelevant because they do work for us. They work for us. They get paid by taxpayer money. And what is the authority that gives them that they don't have to hold a public meeting? What is the legal authority? Who makes these things up that it's not substantial? Who's making these arbitrary decisions for a public meeting?
Let me answer that question succinctly. If there's if the presentation of the revised proposal is not substantively different from the previously presented proposal by their rules, they can hold it with internal.
But who's arbitrarily saying it's not substantial?
Mark,
Who makes that call?
that was their call.
Who's they? Who's there? Who makes the decision?
You need
The
to listen to
commissioner or the staff? Who are we talking about?
Mark, that is the notification that we got from them.
And who signed it?
I would be happy to have that email forwarded to you if you would like. Okay?
Oh, Tammy, why are you fighting me? I'm asking these questions. What is like you like resistance here?
Because Tammy is not the LPC. What are you grilling her for?
I'm
She said
asking what was
she had
sent.
an email.
Bruce, I'm asking what was sent. I don't interrupt you when you ask idiotic questions.
Hey, Mark, Bruce, both of you, you're getting muted. That's it. Jen, mute them both.
Unbelievable.
All right? I'm calling order. That's it. Mark, we made a request. We got an answer. It was sent to us by the LPC on behalf of the staff and commissioner. It is their rules. I don't make it. I put exactly what they've sent in there. If you would like, I will forward the full email. If you would like to reach out to them directly, I encourage you to do so. Let me go on to other people. Mariama, and then Justine, and then Mitch, and then Jason, and then we come back if Mark has anything else. Mariama.
I'm not opposed to working on a resolution in committee and staying as long as it takes to do that. But for the purposes of understanding the parliamentary rules, I have the understanding that it is fine to draft the resolution and then bring it, according to the borough president's office. So
It is.
Okay.
Yep, it is. We got a ruling on that. We've talked about it in executive committee because everything is in draft form until it's voted on by the full board. So it doesn't really make a difference how it's formatted. You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next. Mariama, put your hand down for me, please.
Thanks. I think you said I was next. So I have two things. One is just commenting back to what Mark was saying and what Mariama is saying. I actually agree with Mariama that I don't mind if the resolution is written out in such a way that it's easier to put together so you're not struggling to understand what the point is. But I think that, well, let's say, I think this is where Mark is going. And since I actually agree with him on this issue with congestion pricing, the frustration comes when the information is biased to one side. And I think that's where he's going, but he said it nicer than I did. And I'm not saying it nicely because I feel that he and I at least are on the same side.
That is the work that should be done in committee. So
Okay,
you can
that's fair.
Go to the committee and,
I do.
And understand that even if you don't agree, if the general was there, that's the work that they've done in that committee, right? There are lots of things that come that you may not agree with or I may not agree with, and you have the right to vote as you wish. And you can express your opinions in committee and then it just rolls.
I believe, I'm not sure, I can't speak to Mark. I believe I am part of the congestion pricing working group, so I am part of that committee. But then my other question is, for the World Trade Center Community Advisory Council meeting.
Yes.
If April's almost done, when's the meeting? Do you have a date? No.
I do. I don't have my calendar open right now. I do know it's this week. I know it was not a public meeting as far as I know. I don't have very much information on it yet. When I do have more information, I'm happy to share it. I don't, I believe that it is, I don't know what it is yet because I haven't been there.
Right. But you get to go.
I was asked.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay. And then I guess my question is this, is when and if does the community board have an opportunity to weigh in as to the makeup? I mean, I thought we were so excited when they said they were going to put affordable housing in there.
I personally think that we should opine no matter when.
Yeah, okay, good.
One of those things we should be opining at ASAP. I will say that they are coming for a presentation in May. So the May land use.
So land use is the committee to be discussing this in.
Yep, take a look at the agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next. I think it's Mitch. You're up, and please remember to take your hands down if you've already spoken. And Roger, you have to take your hand down because you're a public member. I told you to be a full board member.
Okay, Tammy, just to follow up on what Justine said, I just want to make sure that one of the bullet points is not forgotten, that even though you said, like,
Not here, in committee. If you want to make sure that a bullet point is not forgotten, we're not going to do that here at full board. You're going to do it in committee.
Okay.
So make sure you have your notes, bring them to committee.
Well, we did that last time, but I like you made a comment. The only reason why I'm saying it, and I won't talk about the bullet point, you made a comment that congestion pricing is here, but we made some, in committee, we made some points that we wanted to preface our recommendations by something else that didn't show total agreement with that, even though it's here. So I just wanted to reiterate that for all the other board members, so they don't think that the committee, the working group, like, is tacitly approving just because it's here.
That's true. It's in the budget. By here, I mean, it's in the budget. It's not like it's.
No, I know. But
yeah.
we said because out of principle that we were going to preface it by something. And so and you were there too. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Perfect. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
All right, Jason, you're next, then Colin.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Mr. Jason.
Hi. So a couple things. One, I wanted to say I do agree with Mark's position, maybe not his attitude on holding someone accountable for the big high-level decisions that are made of interpreting the rules, especially ones that coincidentally remove the public process from the very last part of it. I think it's crazy, and maybe Mark will use his bloodhound ways to get to the bottom of that for us. So please do that, Mark. You said that there's a meeting about the banks that happened or is upcoming.
We're doing a walkthrough. There's a small group of us from the community board who are doing a walkthrough. So
I want to be there. So try and help me out with that. We can sidebar on that. Thank you. And I think the last thing was, I don't even remember because it's so long since you started talking. But so when is the ULURP? When do we get the package for the ULURP for 250 Water Street?
Diana?
Expected?
Yeah, we got an advance notice, which applicants are required to give a minimum of 30 days notice before they file. So we know that they will not file prior to May 17th, which means we will see it at some point after May 17th. They're trying to get it in before our summer break. My best guess is that we will get it in time for the June meetings.
Okay, thank you guys.
You're welcome.
And the answer, just so you know, Jason, is Anthony sent the email from Landmarks, and he's the Director of Community and Intergovernmental Affairs. So it's not as if, they're quoting their basic rules that are outlined on their website and everything else. It doesn't
Right, but
mean
Anthony is not the legal counsel for I respectfully say he is not the legal counsel.
No,
and so those people are the people that have to make the decision. He's the messenger. So
exactly.
let's let Mark rip him into shreds like he likes to do. I'm all for it. Mark, let's do it together. But I think he's right. I think you want to know where this.
I'm happy to provide you with any emails that are publicly available that we can send. Please contact the office and we will send them your way.
Do it, Mark. I'll be your co-pilot.
Colin hasn't said anything. Bruce, you come around for second call, and then Mark for second call, and then.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I've cooled down a little bit, but I just want to say really briefly, when you have outbursts like that, you represent all of us. I would ask people to take care when they have outbursts like that, because it's just not fair to the rest of us, and you're not doing anything remotely to decorum or protocol of this board. So please keep it to yourself or don't join the call.
Thank you, Colin. A call for decorum is lovely. I appreciate that. Bruce, I am going to have somebody give you a personal tour of how to use your hand raise, but you did it, so I
It's
appreciate
raised. I
it.
figured it out while we were
Thank
on
you.
mute. It's good that you muted me. I just want to say that oddly enough, I agree. I know Mark's position on congestion pricing, and I agree with him. And I certainly agree with him about the LPC. I want to state that my objection and my interjection was grilling you, unless they were just rhetorical questions, because you neither fomented that decision, nor were you privy to who made the decision. Obviously, it's the chair of, it's Sarah Carroll and the legal counsel. That's evidently who made that decision. I'm sure Mark knows it. It must just be a rhetorical question. And I do object to be called an idiot. I think a psychiatrist would have a field day with Mark on that remark. Thank you.
You know, thank you, Bruce. I got tougher skin than that. I'm good. And I don't think there would be anybody on any community board that would agree, based on our history, for what we've said for this particular situation, that knowing that there would be a lack of public comment would be acceptable. I think that's what our elected officials noted and said. So, you know, we shot out asking the question early on in the month, as you know, based on dialogue from what happened at the end of last month. And that doesn't mean you don't ask again.
Thank
Mark.
you.
Yeah, I know you're perfectly capable of defending yourself. I was trying to get at where it came from, not that you had anything to do with it. So that was misunderstood. I don't know why. So that was what I was trying to get the root of, whether it was staff or if it was simply the commissioner pointing off to the staff so he wouldn't have to have culpability. That's what I wanted to get at. So now we know the answer to that question. It's signed by the commissioner. So
it's a crystal ball decision. I couldn't tell you who said it. I just was the one who received the information. And I think you should do everything that you would like in the public realm to reach out to them, submit commentary.
Could be violations here, the sunset law and things like that, you know, particularly if it's coming from the top down. And then, like I said about the congestion pricing, when it shows up in the form of resolution, like tonight we have resolutions that are voted on, so we already know what's there.
Mark,
but when it shows up unvoted on, it changes the dynamic of people's attitudes.
Mark,
so that's the problem.
I hear you. We did, Mark, just so you remember, and I'm going to put you on mute because you don't get to comment back on this. Jen, mute Mark. And Mark, take your hand down. Mark, you graciously serve our country, and you missed a meeting where we had gone to the borough president's office and asked about exactly what you're asking. And it is not a problem to have a resolution, quote unquote, formatted to be worked on in the committee. It is not formal. It is still a work in progress. We did ask, we are in good shape. I appreciate where you're going. I understand the difference between a bullet point versus saying whereas. But I think that we have a smart enough board and public to be able to work through this. It's a big topic, and I look forward to seeing you next month. With that, I'm closing my report and moving on. Committee reports. Whew. Yeah. Okay. Since I've talked so much already tonight, and we've already talked about budget, we've talked about the office, we've talked about everything here, I'm going to leave CAPA out. And I'm going to say that whatever we can find for committees, because Dr. Betty Kay has worked long and hard on this, we will forward it along, because there are rule changes, which maybe we'll put Mark on that one, for each city agency that they are putting through with, as we would say, a lack of public engagement. And with that, I close my executive committee report. Next. Paul, take it away. And remember, our resolution is roll call, the first one.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. We're going to talk about the first agenda item we took up, which you heard a little bit about in public session. It basically was a report from a couple of gentlemen who are with Save Our Seaport and Seaport Coalition, who've been volunteers for the museum for years and years. They love the museum. They were trying to, A, identify how we got into this horrible situation with the museum, and B, what can be done short of putting up an out-of-scale building in the historic district to solve the museum's problems. All right, let me just walk through this very quickly. So the long and short of it is that a mechanism was put into place whereby the city and the commercial developers who were brought in to provide funding for the museum were both supposed to provide funding for the museum, and both have really not done a very good job, and on a regular basis sort of, I hate to use the term, screwed the museum as far as what they were entitled to, as far as their leases, etc. As you see down here, the Howard Hughes also, doesn't really give a full story when they come before the board. For example, it's discovered that they sold air rights from the Seaport Historic District and they made $183 million profit, and zero of it went to the museum. So clearly, if they really were interested in helping the museum, they could have thrown them some of that money. Okay. And also we asked, as have the museum, to be part of the cultural institutions group. That's never happened. Next slide. Okay, so basically, again, after the sad history, they went after trying to come up with ideas for how to help the museum moving forward. So restore operating funding, take money the EDC receives from leases and turn much of it over to the museum. The EDC gets paid by Howard Hughes, they get paid by operators of boats that rent out space on city piers, but they don't give any of the funding to the museum. They should. So that's part of what's going to be in this resolution. Keep going. Next slide, please. City-owned air rights. We talked a little bit about that, including with the borough president. I mean, what she didn't say was that we asked her office, and I had multiple conversations with Matthew Washington to help us get EDC to the table and the museum to the table, and either they were unable to or they didn't try hard enough. I don't know what happened, but bottom line is EDC has never responded to either the borough president or to Tammy and the community board, who's also contacted them on multiple occasions. And that performance by EDC, they should not be able to get away with that. Okay. So there are all these air rights that in the past have been sold to sites outside the district, as was originally established for the Seaport. It was the first place in New York where they came up with this concept. It can be done here. I mean, even Howard Hughes, if they control any air rights, I don't think anyone would object to them selling them to sites outside the district. It's the fact that they want to move them into the district that has a lot of people unhappy with their plan. Okay, but the city controls these air rights, and they're the ones. And you also heard tonight how, well, it makes Howard Hughes makes it sound like they're donating money to the museum, $50 million. What they're really doing is buying, or what their plan really is to buy air rights from the city and have the city spend some of the money that they're paid by Howard Hughes for those air rights and turn them over to the museum. And as Tammy said, that can be done with any any groups that are interested in air rights, and that's the way it should work. Next slide, please. Okay, there's also $12.5 million in an unused FEMA grant that the museum controls that have not been utilized. We believe there must be federal funds under COVID that may be available for cultural groups. We would hopefully see to it that the museum, applies for that money. I mean, the museum hasn't always helped themselves, that's for sure. They haven't always been very well run. Fifth, rebalance public-private equation. Okay, we talked about that. Timing. So basically, this plan calls for short-term funding through diversion of existing funds that are coming into EDC and the FEMA money, medium-term selling of the air rights. I would just point out, as Tammy said, we went to the borough president and the council member over a year ago. If that plan had moved quickly at that time, as we wished it would, they could have had $20 million in their pockets by now, even with the amount of time that you look takes 9 months. Longer term, John Street lot lease.
Paul,
Okay, next
you're
slide.
cutting in and out, and it's a gentle reminder that you got 10 minutes total report time before resolutions.
Okay, bottom line is the plan that was approved by the committee concludes that there is an alternative. So let's go to that. Let's skip the conclusion. We covered much of this already anyway. Next slide. Oh, okay. So should we do the resolution? Do we have that to show the community?
Yeah, let me pull it up for you, Paul.
Just before you see it, the committee unanimously adopted a resolution that recommended that we would like to try to work with the museum and with the city and the community to try to come together to come up with funding plans. Instead of fighting with each other, let's sit around the table and see if some of these suggestions can be worked through. And if they have others, we're certainly open to them. Be it further resolved to cover some of the other points I have already mentioned. Money from the master lease can go more quickly to the museum. FEMA grant money, the lease money, air rights. Bottom line is, it identifies a series of medium, short, and long-term measures that everyone agreed was worthy of pursuing. And again, we want to try to do it in a cooperative method, the community board sponsoring some meetings on this. So that's pretty much it, unless people have questions.
Okay, I see, oh goodness gracious. I see 4 hands up. I'm gonna go in this order. I'm gonna go Patrick, Jason, Bruce, and Bob. And let's try and be expeditious on our dialogue.
Yeah, very quickly. Thanks, Tammy. Paul, I may have missed it, sorry, but did the museum express an opinion on this plan or the resolution? Were they at the meeting? Did they say what they think?
No, they were unable to attend the meeting. Jonathan said he had a conflict.
Do they otherwise? Okay, sorry, Tammy.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They reached out to me and said they appreciate any and all help that they can get funding the museum.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Okay, next, after Patrick comes Jason. And then since Bruce has spoken a lot and Bob, I'm going to let Vicky, who hasn't said anything yet, go. Okay, so Jason?
I just wanted to echo and
have a memory of starting the community board maybe 9 years ago and having Paul say at my first meeting or whatever, oh, we can never get EDC to the table on this issue. They just never come. And it's been like 9 years since he's been telling that story. Thank you.
Maybe Danny Meyer can help looking forward. Okay, Vicky, you're next.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say that when I read this resolution, I was really impressed with the work you guys have done. Fantastic. Love the fact that you came up with solutions rather than constantly, making comments. So I am in full support. I think this is a terrific summary, and professionally, it's completely accurate. And I'm glad that this all has come out finally, so that everyone here on our board can see, how tricky and complicated this is. So thank you, Paul. Terrific report.
Thank you, but most of the thanks should go to Sandy and Jay, who did most of the work on this. So let me pass that on to them.
That's great. Okay.
Okay, so who's next? Bruce, Bob, and Francis. Spoken, and you do not need to go again. Please put your hand down. Thank you.
I just want to say this is an incredible document. The only thing I would ask is this in addition to or in furtherance of what will happen after LPC? Is this considered a parallel movement, or is this instead of what will? Is this a way that you perceive to be around the LPC hearing?
You're asking me?
Yes.
No, I don't know that I think they could both go forward. I mean, obviously, there will also be a ULURP process during which time everyone will have opportunities to weigh in and hopefully convince some of the parties that there are other ways to accomplish some of these goals. So,
thank you.
Okay, Bob, and then Francis. Bob Schneck. Hi, Bob.
I just wanted to ask what my understanding of covenants is that you have to follow them through, and there are legal rules that kind of set them up. And the agreement that was originally set up with the South Street Seaport Museum actually must have had rules that were supposed to be followed about money they were supposed to get. And how could those things just be simply subverted? How could so much money flow in the direction of Howard Hughes when there are agreements in place? And why is it that someone hasn't put the Howard Hughes feet to the fire to say, okay, you've promised us this much money, and actually have a covenant in place that legally forces them into that position?
The one thing, Paul, I don't think those are all really good questions, but it doesn't negate what we're trying to do in the resolution, Bob. You know what I mean? Because no matter what has happened in the past, we are here today, right? We know that EDC has changed the rules several times with different operators that have come in over the years, but that doesn't negate what we're trying to do in the resolution. And I don't.
All I would like to do about the resolution in this regard is, if there are enforceable rules, then we should see to it those are enforced. I mean, that all that just happened and we backpedal as though we didn't have anything in place, that just doesn't seem right to me. And that so many times in dealing with EDC over the years, they seem to just ignore the rules time after time. And I just feel like I just want to put my fist down and say, damn it, it's time to do it right and to adhere to what's in print there. And if we don't, then there's what protects us.
And again, I would just say that, we should try to avoid putting EDC in charge of important projects, be that this whole waterfront issue or maybe even the resiliency stuff. They just are very unaccountable, and it's a problem. So, and I don't disagree, but I don't know. I think you'd need an attorney to settle all those other issues that they took care of in backroom meetings, et cetera. So we're doing what we think we can do moving forward, as Tammy said.
Okay, Bob, you're good?
Thank you, Paul. Yep,
Francis?
well, nothing we can do.
Well, I mean, basically, I hear what Bob's saying, and I think we should all try and hold the new head of EDC accountable and try and see where we can go on that. Okay, Francis, you're next.
Yes, I sat in on the meeting, and this resolution, the presentation was very, very impressive. And it's out of my wheelhouse, but I had the same questions that Bruce brought up in terms of, so where did this come from? What can we do about it in terms of what we face now? But that's all I had to say. Oh, one other thing, and that in their presentation, they showed an aerial view, a helicopter view of the whole area, and that is very telling. Despite all the pictures that they show about the buildings and the height and this and that and the other, that aerial view of the whole area was the most impressive part of the presentation to me, beside the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. And I think with that, there are no other questions, because I'm assuming that Bruce, Bob, and Francis all have their hands up and now going down. So therefore,
call the question.
Thank you, Susan. I second that.
Yeah.
Brittany, take it away. It's a roll call.
Awesome. Okay, Amoruso,
Yes.
Brown Kennedy,
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Cameron, Cameron,
Cameron, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Cassell,
Cassell, yes.
Chang,
Chang, yes.
Chapman,
Chapman, yes.
Charkoudian.
Charkoudian votes yes.
Great. Cole,
Yes.
Kuchia,
Lucia votes yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Curtis.
Cunningham, yes.
Okay, got it. Thanks,
Yes.
Fern. Curtis, yes. Airman,
Everett votes yes.
Flynn,
Lynn votes yes.
Franker,
And Kerr votes yes.
Friedman,
Friedman, yes.
Friedman. Okay. Froman,
Froman votes yes.
Galloway,
Galloway, yes.
Goldstein,
Yes.
James,
James, yes.
Joyce,
Joyce, yes.
Kay,
Yes. Kay, yes.
Cannell,
Cannell votes yes.
Kettering,
Kettering, yes.
Kettering. Oh, sorry, we just said, sorry, Capel,
Copel, yes.
Colemenses,
Yes.
Lamory,
Lamory, yes.
Lerner,
Great resolution, yes.
Lewinson,
Lewinson, yes.
Mahoney,
Mahoney votes yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Meltzer,
Meltzer votes yes.
Myhawk,
Myhawk votes yes.
Monjovi,
Yes.
Moore,
Moore votes yes.
Schneck,
Schneck votes yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Sung. Okay, got it. Wade, yes. Weinstock, Weinstock, was that a yes? Okay, we'll come back. Z,
Z, yes.
Zelter.
Zelter votes yes.
Okay, and is Weinstock there? Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. So Diana, why don't we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so next we're going to talk about the issue that was discussed a little bit in public session, replacement of wayfinding signs by the Downtown Alliance in conjunction with DOT. So they came before the committee and presented their plan. Basically, what they told us, as you already heard, was that the signs were decayed and in need of replacement, and there were only 26 of them remaining from the originals that were put up, I guess, in the 90s, I believe, or maybe before then. And so during the course of that discussion, and just for the record, they need to go to the Public Design Commission to gain approval before they could move forward with this. So we had a lot of discussion of this in committee. There were a lot of concerns raised that are listed in the resolution. Well, here before you, you could just see the signage or some of the examples of the signage. The old existing signage is on the left-hand side. The changes are on the right-hand side. Some people, for example, objected to the logo for the Downtown Alliance going in all the new signs. There were concerns about referring to this area as downtown as opposed to lower Manhattan, which had always been the case. There were certainly a lot of comments about whether they adequately did historic research on their signage and whether there was proper signage to recognize the contributions of different groups that are less traditional for lower Manhattan, that some of them are covered in our resolution. I know some people suggested a public design commission. That was Alice. To come up. So basically, one of the big complaints, frankly, was that this was the first time the community board was seeing this proposal, and they hadn't come to us and gotten any input from the community on this. And instead, they came with a proposal that they are ready to present to the Public Design Commission. So after discussion in committee, the committee did come up with the resolution before you. The majority of the people wanted to say no unless you make changes. As you heard earlier, it sounds as though the Alliance is open to the idea of possibly delaying, although we didn't get didn't she say she had to go back to talk to somebody to get a definitive answer to that question? So
she did, but she also, in their statement for what they read, there is much of the things that we have asked for that they agreed to. So we should check with the parliament. I'm gonna defer to the parliamentarian Patrick. Sorry, Pat. I'm going to Patrick, not you, Mr. Kettering. I apologize because you might have to recuse yourself on this one.
I will. Yes.
Yep, but I think that we may want to table this till next month with the understanding that they said that they would come back.
I would say, I mean, that sounds like a reasonable solution. I don't think it's as much a parliamentary issue as it is what does Paul think the sense of the committee was. In other words, will revisions that Tina was talking about substantially alter the resolution such that passing it is sort of moot at this moment anyway?
I actually was thinking of a slightly different approach, which was to adopt the resolution, but to add a be it resolved that Community Board 1 would be very open to having a follow-up meeting in next month to discuss this assuming that this does not proceed without such a meeting taking place, and forward to trying to resolve these issues at that session, something along those lines. But I think it wouldn't be bad to at least, make this officially.
So, but the problem is this resolution is a denial. So when it goes to the Public Design Commission, it's going to say it's not approved. They've come back and changed it. So that's why I'm asking for a ruling on that kind of a thought.
Well, we could say we will consider this resolution following that discussion at our next meeting.
I mean, I guess the question is based on the presentation that was given to the committee, Paul, there's nothing in the resolution that's wrong based on that presentation. It sounds like the information that Tana presented tonight is different from what the committee heard originally.
I wasn't able to go item by item to see how many of them she covered and didn't, to be honest.
My point being that
it's an update to to this. So she responded to the concerns of the constituency of the resolution in some, not all. Justine, I see you waving, but do me a favor and put your hand up. And we're gonna go to committee for questions. Susan, and then Justine, and then Mitch. After Patrick. Patrick, you want to let them go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Susan, Cole, Mitch, Justine.
My suggestion would be that we at least pass it. I like Paul's idea of going on record. I want to hear what Patrick has to say, but I don't want it to go to the commission. I didn't feel comfortable enough with what she said. So I don't know how you get around it, but I think we have to do something in some way. Because it's not that I'm mistrustful, but I don't know that they're going to come back to us or any of those things. So how do we work that out, Patrick, legally, and go on record that these are our concerns, we're not against it? And I'd just like to make a little snide comment. How about regular street signs? No street has a friggin' sign in our neighborhood. You don't know whether you're on Vestry or anything else. That's it.
Stay on topic. Stay on topic.
I'll defer to the Transportation Committee on that one.
Okay, that's it.
Next, after Susan, is Mitch Froman, then Justine.
Hi, I wanted to ask one question first to Paul, and then I want to just make a comment. Paul, was there any push? I support everything you just said. The main thing that I noticed was they left out the signs for the trains, the train stations, and I was just wondering, was there any in your committee? Was there any pushback about that specific thing?
I mean, people did say that additional signs covering additional areas might be.
No, like the previous sign, the original sign had, I mean, because I just looked at practicality more than how to get to Francis Tavern, but that's just my opinion. The second thing is you made a really good point, and where a city agency will come to our committee meeting, and it's happened a lot with the Transportation Committee, it's happened a lot with the Quality of Life Committee, basically under the guise of community discussion and input, but they've really come already with a done deal. And I think that point, like if we could, like as a collectively as a board, that's something that I know that it really irks a lot of us. And it, you crystallized it. It's really like not, it's not bait and switch, because they're not baiting and switching. They're just saying it's like almost how do I say it? So that they can say they came to the community board, so they look good on paper when they go back to their agency, but it's really already a done deal instead of coming first before they have you know what I'm talking about, Tammy and Paul, right?
Honestly, Mitch, I think in this instance, I think
Sandy has to go hear a show, go
Bruce?
set up, she's
Bruce?
having a show to,
Bruce,
in the fall.
Bruce, you're mute. You're not muted. Somebody mute Bruce. I mean, Mitch has a point here, and what Mitch is saying is how they came to us. I considerably DOT approached, which is why I asked her in the public session. And if Taina's on, she can speak for herself. But DOT approached Downtown Alliance to do it because they didn't want to pay for it.
Okay.
So there was no public process in any of it. And so the Downtown Alliance came to us.
Okay.
And that's how we got here today.
I guess what Paul said just kind of evoked, like, I'm making a general point that happens a lot when they come to the committees. Maybe this is not the perfect example, but you know what I'm talking about. All right.
All right, thanks, Mitch. Justine, you're next.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, and then I've got Mariama, Mark, Wendy, and oh my gosh, after Justine, we're going to hear from Mimi because she hasn't spoken once. Okay. And then Wendy, because she hasn't spoken either. Thank you.
All right, so I'll be quick. So I agree. I agree with Mitch and I agree with Paul. I think this needs to, and Susan, I guess too. This resolution needs to be passed because the way I read this, therefore, be it resolved, is it's not saying, go away, drop dead, you're terrible. It just says we don't support the proposal as presented, and we ask the DOT and the Downtown Alliance to come back after taking stuff into consideration. That's reasonable. And if we want to add in something else that, Paul, you were trying to like wordsmith as you were talking, fine. But just to basically say, we want these things here that the committee put time and effort into looking at and talking about. I mean, I was at the meeting, I'm not part of the committee, but and then after that, if it has to be followed up with another resolution saying, okay, great, Downtown Alliance came to us, DOT came to us, and they presented whatever they present, and we love it. Lovely. We do 2 resolutions. That's my point. Go ahead, Mimi.
Hey,
Thank you.
yes, I agree with everybody. I've got to say the therefore be it resolved with the I think the points are great. I think the points could also be like prefaced by I don't know, I guess this might be like a friendly amendment, I'm not sure. That like we should be treated as stakeholders, that they should get requirements from us as the community for the signage that they intend to put in our community. I think that's sort of described here. And then things are listed out. But yeah, I think that being like really clear that they need to make sure to get requirements for such signage from us is important.
I have breaking news. I did hear from the Downtown Alliance, and they will postpone going to PDC. So put that in your hat, and thank you, Mimi. Did I interrupt you? Finish your sentence. Sorry, breaking news I wanted to share.
No, that's it. That's pretty much just to make it really clear that they need to come before us, because it sort of feels like the bullet points take away from that. It's more like the bullet points are an example of requirements we would have given them and that we would like, to work as partners.
I have no objection to adding something, as several people have now suggested, that a better effort be made to consult with the community board before a final proposal is established.
But isn't that what this is? Isn't that why they came?
It's what it's evolving into, but when they came to us, they said they were presenting it next month to PDC. So that's not the same thing.
Okay. So who was next? Wendy and then Jeff Galloway.
I was going to lower my hand because I think that the delaying this is the right answer. I think the biggest problem with all of this is a project that nobody wants, and the Downtown Alliance got saddled with it, and the committee is talking about, and a lot of the good points were that this is a citywide effort, it should be thoughtful, it should be broad, and the Downtown Alliance was saying, we're going to make this narrow, we're going to keep it simple, we're going to do what, we're going to replace the same signs, we're going to do, what we're required to do and nothing else, because we don't want to pay for this, but we will pay for this and we will maintain it. So it's the committee wants to make this broad and citywide and expand it, and the Downtown Alliance wants to make it small and as painless as possible. So I think it's great to give feedback, because the biggest feedback is they broadly showed us a couple signs, and I thought it was terrible. There were almost no pictures on any of the signs that they showed us. But the other piece of that is that they don't want to expand this project. They want to do as little as possible. And because they're paying, that's the problem here. So
Did you
I'm
hear
glad it's being delayed.
Taina said that they were actually, I asked in the public session when she presented, she said they were told. They
Right,
weren't-
exactly. Yeah,
They-
no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not saying that that they have to keep it small, because that's what they're, you know, they're in a box. And the big discussion in the committee meetings was that committee members wanted to make it a contest or bigger, or consult broader groups of people. And that's what they're saying, that that's just not going to be possible. So anyway, it's just, I wanted people who weren't in the meeting to understand it a little better. Thanks.
Perfect. Jeff, you're next, and then I've got 3 other hands up.
I was going to suggest, I mean, I'd be happy tabling this and simply readdressing it whenever they come back with a revised proposal, or alternatively, perhaps keeping it exactly as it is, but adding a final whereas that would read something along the lines of, whereas a representative appeared at the CB1 monthly meeting, or I guess at the April CB1 monthly meeting, and expressed willingness to take account of CB1's comments and concerns, and to present a revised wayfinding proposal at the May CB1 waterfront, whatever meeting. And then simply state the concerns that we've listed there, which she did address many of those concerns, not all of them, but certainly most of them in her comments. But I think the resolution is otherwise still appropriate, even if they're going to come back. You have in writing now what the concerns are, and she said orally that they were taking them into account. So that would be my suggestion is, and I can make it as a request for a friendly amendment to add that whereas.
So Paul, we have a friendly amendment, and we have to consider. I'm still also, after you vote on that, going to make a motion to table. So those are the 2 that you've got to go through first and foremost.
Well, Jeff's suggestion is similar to what I was suggesting, which is to just say that we're pleased that we'll have another opportunity to review changes, and we look forward to that. You know, we could say something along those lines, but, you know, just make it clear that we perhaps add in there, we appreciate that the Downtown Alliance has decided to delay this, giving the community board some opportunity. We also appreciate that they've addressed some of our concerns. We look forward to discussing this one more time in May.
That's fine.
You've accepted the friendly amendment.
We could work out the very detailed language later.
I'm gonna call for a motion to table, which you need.
I mean, I have a comment still before that, if that's all right.
No, because my motion to table came up first. So let's see if we go there first, and then we'll go, because I've come back to the same place I was before, based on an email that came in from Jessica Lappin saying that they would wait. So
I'll second it.
We do a roll call, please, on this. Roll call, please.
So Brittany, there's a roll call for the motion to table. You're on.
Great. And Marisa?
No, do not table.
Okay. Burton? Oh, I'm sorry, they're out. Brown Kennedy?
Abstain.
Cameron?
Do not table.
So opposed?
Yes.
Cassell?
Cassell table.
Cassell. Chang?
Chang table.
Chapman?
Yes, table.
Mrs. Chapman.
Kudian,
Charcudian, yes.
Cole,
No, don't table.
Puccia,
Kuchen, do not table.
Cunningham,
Cunningham abstain.
Curtis,
Curtis abstains.
Airman. Airman. Okay, Flynn. Flynn,
And table.
Franker,
Franker table.
Friedman.
Min table.
Oh, shoot, my list just went away. Sorry, my vote sheet just went away. 1 second. Okay, Froman,
Froman, no, do not table.
While we're
Galloway.
waiting, may the
Well, yes.
committee, may the members please say yay, nay, abstain, or recuse. That makes it clear for our record keeping.
Did you hear my vote?
Froman, were you yes or no or what?
That was Galloway making clarification.
I didn't call you yet. 1 second, Galloway. Froman.
Froman, nay.
Okay, thank you. Galloway.
Yes. Galloway, yes.
Great. Goldstein.
Say no.
James.
James abstained.
Joyce.
Joyce abstains.
Kay.
Hey, yes.
Cannell.
Cannell, yes.
Kettering.
Kettering, recuse.
Capel.
Capel, no.
Clementez.
Clements abstain.
Lamoury.
Lamoury, nay.
Lerner.
Lerner abstains.
Lewinson. No. Mahoney.
Can you come back to me?
Sure. McHugh. McHugh. Okay. Meltzer. Okay. McHugh was a no. Got it. Meltzer.
Absolutely, yes. I'm the one who proposed it.
Myhawk.
Nay.
Jovi.
No.
Moore.
Yes.
Schneck. Sung.
Abstain.
Wade, no. Z. Z. Okay. Zelter.
Zelter abstain.
Okay. Do we have Z? Mahoney?
Mahoney, yes.
Okay. Just give us 1 second. Okay, so we have 14 in favor, 13 opposed, 9 abstaining, and 1 recused.
All right.
The motion fails.
So can I recommend that we try to go for a vote on the resolution with that amendment that we discussed?
I can second that if I, or yes, I agree with you.
I still have a comment.
I'd love to hear from Mark.
Justine, stay muted. I'm getting there. Mark, Jeff, your hand is up for second round. Justine, if you need to go, that's fine as well.
Okay to go, Tammy?
Yes, thank you, Mark,
Okay,
for your
okay.
patience.
So we discussed this a little bit at committee. I brought it up. I just like to add a bullet point with regards to because when we were talking, when they didn't seem like to have a grasp on that, they maybe should have hired some more historians to really kind of research what needs to be on these signs. And I brought up just one example. First Italian to land on in New York. There's a plaque in Battery Park City about him, Peter Alberti. So that's just one example of many examples that they need to look at to put on these signs. So I just thought maybe adding a bullet point of should we have the history of immigration and historical persons as well. And we did discuss it in committee. I mean, that's part of Lower Manhattan history, so it's not here on the bullet points.
I know.
I'm confused. What's your ask?
What's confusing? Tell me.
They
Also
have,
at a bullet point, I thought we did cover consulting other historians in there.
they have
Yeah,
a higher.
but then it's specifically asking for these things that are listed in consulting the historians. There's merely needs to be more subjects that need to be consulted on, including immigration
Just
and
add the
historical
word,
persons.
including historically marginal people. So it's
Well,
not.
some of the historical people are not marginal. It's just a history. So,
Didn't they say they were already doing that?
I don't know. They seem confused about some of this subject. So, and it's just a simple, just to include immigration and historical persons.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think it's
All
controversial.
right, fine, let's keep going, fine.
Andrew, you've been quiet. You're next. I'm calling
That's
on.
accepted, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask a point of clarification. My understanding is that these 26 signs were specifically related to the Freedom Trail. Is that correct?
I don't really remember that specific answer.
So I could be wrong, but I thought the scope of this was specifically linked to the Freedom Trail. And
it is.
I think a lot of what's being proposed is expanding beyond the scope of the Freedom Trail, which may be fine. But I think what they came forward with was a project to essentially replace, upgrade, renovate signage that was put in place years ago to call out or highlight the Freedom Trail.
Correct. And Taina is here, so we can ask her questions if we need to. But yes, that is what they stated both then and today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next.
Hey, Tammy, I'm sorry, just a point of order for procedure. The proposed amendment was accepted after the resolution was tabled, so I'm not going to report on it. I suggest that it be done in committee.
The friendly amendment was accepted before the table vote. The table vote was turned down, and Mark's friendly amendment was also added, which is fine.
I thought table vote passed. Okay, thanks.
Vote did not pass. Okay, Colin, that's okay.
Yeah, please, thanks.
That's okay. All right, so I think we've gotten everybody. Colin's gone, Andrew's gone, Mark is gone. We've gotten everybody on first round. I'm gonna say call the question.
I would second that.
So, because, oh, wait, Joe, I apologize. I just saw your hand up and down. Joe, what's up?
I just thought the Freedom Trail was an aside to all this that was going on. I don't think it was a major point that was made at the time.
That's what the signs are for.
All right, I think we could still call the question.
Okay. All right. So you want to
say roll call or?
I don't think we need yet another roll call. Do you?
Can we just clarify which friendly amendments we've accepted? I think I might have lost track.
We accepted the very first friendly amendment. Colin, you have the notes on that?
It's the one that I made with Paul was going to wordsmith it, basically reciting the fact that they showed up at the meeting and said they were receptive to taking account of our concerns and they were going to come back with a revised proposal.
So I might just clarify that. I don't know that in the meeting itself, they indicated they would come back with a revised proposal. I think they commented they would take away our concerns. And again, it may just be in the wordsmithing.
I I have an email that came in while we were on the call from Jessica Lappin,
Right?
while we are here now, that says they would be willing to come back in May.
And I did hear that. I guess I was just commenting, and it may be too fine a distinction. I thought Jeff was saying they represented in the meeting that they would come back with an alternate proposal, and I don't recall that being part of the meeting. But to your point, something that came in after the fact.
We'll make sure it reflects that we learned that the Downtown Alliance is now willing to come back.
You also need to reflect the fact that the Downtown Alliance sent a note with updates and changes as well.
And if you want to pass that along so we know which issues were addressed, maybe we could even mention them.
She did it in the public session today. I'll ask for
Well,
the.
I didn't take notes, sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just with all the back and forth, I don't know what the amended language is, so could someone please put the finalized amended language in the chat?
Yep, we'll get it to you. Jeff Galloway, please send it to the host so that can come through.
Thank you.
And
Subject to, I mean, Paul may very well want to wordsmith it. I mean, I have my language, but Paul have some variations, but I'll send my language momentarily into the chat.
Okay.
Thank you. Brittany, Paul, take the vote.
Okay, so just to clarify, is this roll call or we're taking it all opposed, abstain, that type of thing?
We'll see how it goes.
Okay. So, Russo?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Tammy, could you just, I'm not sure what the vote is for. If we say yes, we're voting for the resolution that Paul wrote?
Yes, with that,
Okay.
that one addition.
Thank you, thank you.
Two amendments, mine and Jeff's.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Could I just say, could we just vote like we do, it's fast?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're okay. Just like say who's objecting, who's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
So any opposed?
I vote for that.
Okay.
Any
Sorry.
opposed?
Abstention, Curtis abstains.
Okay,
Any
but before
abstains?
that, any opposed?
Oh, no, I thought you said that.
Okay, any abstain? So you
Curtis
said
abstained.
Okay,
Yes.
who else is abstaining?
Schneck
Brinker
abstains.
abstains.
Brinker. And
Schneck abstains.
Schneck.
Kay
Okay.
abstains.
Brown
Kay.
Kennedy abstains.
Okay. Brown Kennedy, I got.
Canal
Did you get
abstains.
Kay?
Yes, I got Kay.
Thank you.
Cannell, I have.
Meltzer.
Any other abstentions? Meltzer,
Check.
okay.
Chang abstains.
Flynn.
Flynn and Chang, I have. Any other abstentions? Recusals?
Kettering recuses.
Got it. Anyone else?
You would have to have Bruce say his vote since he didn't vote on the tabled resolution.
Okay, Bruce, what's your vote?
By the way, Cunningham recuses.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And Kumet
Airman?
as well.
Okay, Clementis, I have. Recusal, got it. And it doesn't sound like Bruce is here.
Right, he's here, but he's not responding.
Yeah, okay, we're good.
Okay, should I move along?
Oh, please. No offense intended.
Okay, do we have another slide or two, Diana, or we have a resolution?
Yeah, I think the next item is the African burial ground resolution.
Okay, so let's discuss this briefly. This was a resolution in support of the measure that Congressman Nadler briefly mentioned in his remarks, that is in favor of establishing an African Burial Ground International Memorial Museum and Education Center to go along with what they have there now. And there was support for this, but I will point out that I have just very recently heard from 3 community board members who would request that we table this so that there's an opportunity to refine it just a bit. So I don't know, do you want to speak on that, just so people understand?
I can address it. And the
Pat?
3 yeah, it's Pat. And the 3 members are Francis and Mariama and myself. Mariama, we're including you in this. We're not opposed to it, obviously, but we feel as though the African burial ground has never been given the amount of consideration that it should have. We agree we would like the museum, we would like an educational center, but we would also like somebody from our community to be on the advisory board, number 1. And we would like to just table it so that we can have an opportunity to have some of the representatives of the elected officials who are in favor of this come to, send their representatives to the meeting so that we can understand exactly what it is that they're proposing.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't object to that. Do we have to vote on that? Or Francis, did you want to say something further?
No, I just concur with Pat in that I am just very, I sat in on the committee meeting when this was brought up, and I had a lot of feelings about it, and glad that it's being presented now. I think it's weak. It has some weak points that it could be stronger. I am not in a position right now to have done that, and I hope that if it's tabled, we get a chance to send it back to the committee for some input to make it a little stronger, because there's a lot of other points that need to be referenced in this. And as Pat said, we need to hear from the entities that were involved with the original process of establishing the African burial ground. It's a burial ground. It's not a cemetery.
Not a cemetery.
That's the way we feel. It's not a cemetery. And in terms of the number of people, how could there be 17,000 people buried under that little? There's a lot of issues, which we would like the opportunity to explore and develop into a more meaningful, what we would like to present to the committee and the community board, a more meaningful resolution.
So Paul, the 3 of them have made a motion to table. And if you are okay with it, then let's table it and move it to next month and have Nadler's team come in to talk about the legislation and the effects.
Sounds good to me.
And yeah, I would second the tabling it, but I would also ask the African Burial Ground come in too to talk with Nadler's committee, so we hear from the people who are involved. But yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you all. We'll get on the agenda.
Hold on, Paul. Justine, I would have called on you. I did see your hand, but I asked Paul the question as the committee chair. Just trying to keep everybody, give equal discipline love. No offense intended for anybody. Paul, your answer?
Yes, table.
Thank you. And can we move to the next committee? Are we done?
Let me give a 30-second report on the last 2 items.
Yes, we have to vote on the point of information. We need to vote on the tabling.
I'll leave that to the parliamentarian.
I think you can do it by voice vote.
Yeah, we just need to vote. It can be any way you want.
Either that or you withdraw it. Or Paul, you
need a second.
All right, let's just, this I don't think we'll get any objections. Why don't we just do this?
The motion to table has been made, it's been seconded, so it's not debatable. And Mark's right, you do need to just take a formal vote, but we can do it like we do the other resolutions that are non-controversial.
Fine.
So I'm going to roll this quickly. All in favor of tabling? Perfect. Are there any abstentions? Are there any recusals? Are there any no's? Motion passes unanimously.
Well done.
Fantastic.
Okay, the last two items are, you see we had some continuing issues with Pexler Park, especially with skateboarders. We're getting good cooperating also with the plantings not being properly protected. We are working in a good way with parks, and we hope to gradually get these issues fully resolved. I'll keep reporting back on that. And finally, we got a good report from the Museum of Jewish Heritage, from the president of CEO, and they're back in operation, and they're both virtual and live, so people should check them out. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Long month for you. Tricia?
Hello.
I'm begging you, less than 10 minutes. No offense.
Oh, it's going to be way less than 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Black Gotham Experience. Kamal was not able to make it. We are going to be seeing him in May. We're really looking forward to hearing about that organization, and thank Andrew for bringing it to us. The science labs. Jennifer Hackett. Hold on, bear with me while I pull this up. Just popped off my screen. I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second. Jennifer Hackett is a scientist and educator at DNA Learning Center, which is DNA LC of Cold Spring Harbor Labs. They were actually written up in like Forbes. This organization is really phenomenal. If any of you have the time to look at it, it's DNALC. And they came to get our support to bring their programming to our schools. They're going to be working with schools, much as like, Eye to Eye and Understood.org want to liaise with our schools and after school to bring their programming to us. We're going to be keeping in very close touch with them. They have summer programs that are really worth looking into. They're doing things in person, so it's really worth looking into. We'll be seeing them again. Also, we don't have a lot of information on this, so I'm just going to make an announcement. You've probably heard the mayor's office has announced their Summer Rising program. This is a very ambitious COVID recovery program that Misha Porter, our new chancellor, and DYCD, along with de Blasio, had announced the week before last. It's free summer plan for any child in grades K to 12. There are different offerings depending upon the age of the child. So for kindergarten and elementary school students, they can participate in a 5-day-a-week program for 7 weeks, providing childcare services, recreational things that they haven't come up with yet. For middle schoolers, they're going to have a 4-day-a-week program for 6 weeks, and high school will have the opportunity to engage in summer youth employment program and participate in public school athletic leagues. So the schools are going to start reaching out to the families. We have not heard from them. I don't know if anybody else has, but I've heard nothing with my family yet. We do not know. We've put out a couple emails trying to find out how they're going to pay for this, who the providers are going to be. It is for all school children, which are like 1 million. So we're curious as to what the budget is for this, where it's coming from, and who the providers are. So we'll be sharing that at our May meeting, hopefully. And then last, and not on the agenda, but as an announcement, I have incredibly good news, which the executive board has already heard. But we were successful in finally getting the Harbor School their pool at Site 515 on Governor's Island. And not only did we get the pool, which was no small feat because they need 10-foot depth for the Harbor School pool, we got it at 515 because it's the highest place on the island. They were able to accommodate a full-size pool there, in addition to 400 classroom seats and a gym. So we are thrilled for the Harbor School. It was obviously very challenging to do while this ULURP was active. I really want to thank not only our Youth and Ed Committee, but Margaret Chin, who really, went to bat on this one and got it over the finish line, as did Lorraine Grillo from the SCA. And the mayor's office really came through with the funding in the end, because it was necessary, because they're working at a deficit during COVID. So I'm thrilled that they did the right thing. And Claire Newman of Governor's Island Trust, I'm really thrilled they did the right thing. It was the right thing to do, to make sure to take care of that long overdue infrastructure before talking about anything else. So very happy, excited, and that's the end of my news.
Tammy, I put my hand up.
Nope, you have to wait.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Wait.
I apologize.
Equal justice for all. Rosa Chang, Patrick, and then Mitch, you're now in the back.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Rosa, you're first.
Thank you, Tammy. I just want to say congratulations and thank you to Youth and Ed for getting the Harbor School pool. I know that was a huge lift and it actually happened, so that's amazing. Secondly, just in terms of your question about summarizing, I know that I did actually get an email, so I'm going to forward that to you from our school. That did have some details on it, unless you had any specific questions now. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Patrick.
Just along the lines of congrats to the Youth and Ed Committee, and I know it was a team effort, and Tricia used the phrase "we," but everyone should know how hard Tricia worked in the background to make sure that this happened. She did not let this thing go until it was done, and her individual efforts, I think, should be recognized. So congratulations, Tricia, but congratulations to the whole Youth and Ed team.
Thank you, Patrick.
Here, without a doubt. Mitch.
Yes, a quick comment and a quick suggestion. Tricia, I am so happy that you were able to get a full gym and not a gymatorium. That we both agree is neither. Number two. I remember from when my kids were in like PS 87 on the Upper West Side, like over 30 years ago. Concerning point number 3 with the mental health programming, and for those of you who don't, PS 87 was like similar to what the schools in Tribeca are now. It was the jewel of the Upper West Side. In elementary school, they brought in an extra social worker guidance counselor to deal with young children whose families were going through divorce, and unfortunately, that's half of the population, and it really helps so many young kids separate from the regular guidance counselor stuff. So it's just a suggestion whether something like that is included in that, or maybe could be added to that. If it was just a wonderful thing for some of these young children whose families were going through divorces.
Mitch, thanks so much for mentioning that, because one of the things I'm confused about is if you look at the details of the program, I don't even see a mental health component that's outlined for us at all.
Wow.
And oftentimes you see that term used without understanding fully what it means.
Right.
So that is at the top of my list of questions, actually. And the program you're talking about, we called it Banana Splits at 234. It is the best thing ever. And
Okay.
I'm so happy you mentioned it. I'm going to take it to them when I ask this question.
Yeah, because PS 87 30 years ago was kind of like what 234 became down here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, everybody. I see no further hands up. Tricia, again, I mean, we know that this would not have crossed the finish line without you. So many, many, many thanks. Francis Curtis, you're up. Health and Human Services.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy, for your support, and Lucian for your support to help me pull off the presentation that we had that was an introduction to viruses and vaccines. I guess in some ways it was the timeliness of that presentation in terms of how the virus is growing and spreading into different kinds of variants, and having all of the questions and the vaccines. The whole process is is very organic. And even with the legislative updates, it's like at the beginning of the month, it was, Mark Levine was telling us we need to look to get some more J&J vaccines, and then J&J was taken off, and it was back and forth, and now J&J is back. We don't know whether to wear masks or not. So all of that to say is the presentation is online. It was done by 2 superstar scientists, and anyone who has not seen it, I suggest that you take a look at it. And some parts, because like I said, it talks about stuff from the very beginning, stuff that we already know, and we've heard over and over again. But the presentation is awesome, and I would even recommend it for younger people. So adults, mothers and fathers, you check it out and see if that's something you would want to show your kids. And again, in terms of the legislative updates, everything is organic. But what I would say to all of you is if there is any specific issue or question you have, please just ask, get to the solution or Tammy, and I will definitely get on it because it changes day to day. Last week we were wearing masks. This week, all those people who are vaccinated don't have to wear masks. So you get my point. Anyway, thank you. That's the end of my report.
I see no hands up, Francis. I thank you so much for doing that. We will make sure, I think Lucian has, we'll be sharing that presentation. Yeah, we've got it up. Okay?
Yeah, it's up.
Perfect. Pat Moore.
I'm next. So, as many of you know, the body of Rosalie Sanchez was found in the New Market building. And so it needed to be secured, which we have been told that it has been by EDC. We had a presentation and a discussion with Will Fisher and James, I think it's Nocito from EDC. So the building has been secured. The demolition has begun. It's going to take 10 months to a year to deconstruct the building. They told us they'll have flagmen there because they, of course, most of the materials that they're deconstructing will be put onto a barge boat on the water side because the pier itself is not strong enough to support having trucks. So that will also cut down on noise for the buildings that are in close proximity to the deconstruction. But they may at some point have to close the bike lane that runs in front of the building to do a little bit of work. And they will have flagmen. They will give us notification. It won't just, you won't be riding your bike and come up on the bike lane being closed. I think that's basically the conversation for that. The every other month, you have DDC come in to tell us progress on projects that are happening in our community, like Greenwich Street, Front Street, Vestry Street, Worth Street. So if you want to hear the details, please attend our meeting every other month. I've asked that the Community Liaison Officer Brian Nelson come if he can every month to our meeting. If he can't come, to please send an NCO from the first precinct so that we can have an opportunity for people in the community to ask questions about what's going on. You may have heard about some crime. You may want to ask what the police are doing in the community, but so that you can have questions and answers at our committee meeting. What else? We had a conversation about the city council reform legislative package. Some of what has been passed by the city council we discussed. Some things are being asked for the state to review and pass. We will continue that discussion. Mariama gave us a brief report on she attended the helicopter task force. And I think that's basically it.
Thank you, Pat. Let's see. I do not have hands up.
We had the I made a brief announcement about the World Trade Center Victims Compensation Fund as well. Yes. Lucian has in multiple languages document the information, basically the handout that they provided to us on some deadlines that are coming up. for people, and the VCF is expected to be here themselves in person in June. We were trying for May, but heard from them earlier today that it's more likely going to be our June meeting, quality of life, that they'll attend. But
Perfect.
Lucian has the documents now. Yeah.
So we will make sure that, Lucian, if it's available in a publicly accessible place, please share it in the link into the chat for everybody for tonight who's on the meeting, and all of the information, including the COVID-19 vaccine YouTube link, will go out in the newsletter over the weekend. All righty, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on. Betty Kay, you're up.
Thank you. If you want to go on to the next slide, we can start with the first item. And again, the Brooklyn Bridge will be getting a bike lane. Just want people to see that if you haven't seen the rendering yet. And to remind you, this was it's the mayor who initiated this project. So the DOT is acting on it quite quickly, presented it in April. It will be finished in October to November. They're not quite sure yet. Next slide. And the bigger issue that's going to hold them up potentially is the getting to and from the bridges at both ends, but especially at the Manhattan side as well. There are some details they need to still work out. And they're going to come back in 2 to 3 months to give us information about what that's going to look like. If you recall, Lafayette Street and Center Street, we already knew we're going to be getting protected bike lanes. They are speeding up the process of getting those done. But there's a little gap in there. You can see going around Chambers Street and linking up to them from the bridge still has to be worked out. We don't know what's going on with that yet. Go on to the next. You also just mentioned about the Borough President's Open Streets Report. I encourage people to read it if you haven't. You can get it available on the website for the Borough President's office. And this will be coming up in the near future because we want to get people who have experience, such as the Downtown Alliance and the people who are working on Duane Street, with how they did working with the open streets last year. Next. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is the season. It's just started, which is why we were a little too early. Next. Now get to the meat of it all. This was to talk about the Central Business District tolling program, which, as Tammy's already reported, we've been working on this for a few months already. Commonly called congestion pricing, this legislation was part of New York's 2019 budget, and it includes all of Manhattan south of 61st Street. Want to go to the next slide? I'm going to go over some of the bullet points to remind you. So I want to get people up to speed because we're going to be acting on this pretty soon. Some program basics. The MTA's Tri-Borough Bridge and Tunnel Authority are the ones who are responsible for implementing and maintaining the new tolling system. So they're the ones actually the resolution is primarily going to. There's a memorandum of understanding between the MTA and the City of New York, really via the DOT, that specifies the relationship between how those two groups are going to work together. Again, this isn't a legislation. There's also a 6-person traffic mobility review board, which we have written a resolution about already to get them named. But 5 of them will be appointed by the Tri-Borough Bridge and Tunnel Authority and 1 by the mayor. And they will recommend, it could be as late as 30 days before the program goes into effect. So we have heard nothing yet about who the people are or when the program's going to start. I want to make that clear. The MTA has not announced and can't announce yet. $100 million was allocated from the state budget for installing the new tolling technology, which is why you're starting to see some of that being installed on our streets already. When the money is collected from the program, and again, it's supposed to be about $1 billion a year, 80% will go to the New York City subways, buses, and Staten Island Rapid Transit. 10% will go to the Long Island Railroad, and 10% will go to the Metro North Railroad, again, specified in the law. There have been recent developments, which brings us up again. U.S. Department of Transportation has allowed New York State to proceed with the environmental assessment, which is the shorter form and what we were waiting on for so long to hear about, and public outreach. That's also necessary before they can start the pricing. And that would make New York City the first city in the U.S. The goals are reducing traffic, expanding and improving mass transit, and added after the legislation, improving air quality, which is interesting or important because congestion pricing plans had to be done because of, we needed federal approval because of the federal roads that we have, the FDR, West Street, and a section of Canal Street, for instance, required why we needed the approval. But this also opens the door to Secretary Buttigieg has the authority to adjust New York City's program goals. So we have not heard anything about that yet, but okay. Exemptions and credits in the legislation. So this is not debatable. As Tammy said, this course has already left the barn. The passenger cars may only be charged once daily for entering and remaining in the central business district. Emergency vehicles and vehicles transporting disabled persons will be exempt from the charge. Again, this is taken from the legislation. These terms are not defined. Third, residents from the zone with incomes less than $60,000 will receive a tax credit equal to the amount paid in congestion charges on their New York taxes. And then next, we can move beyond the legislation now. And so far, what has the committee kind of come up with? That they support the program goals of less congestion, improving mass transportation, and reducing air pollution. Feeling was kind of, how can you fight those things? But now it starts to get a little bit more nuanced. Some members definitely insist that improving mass transit is a government responsibility, not something that drivers should pay for. So all district residents should be exempt. Others say that tolling is inconvenient but necessary to reduce pollution, reduce traffic congestion, and fund MTA improvements. So not everyone is in complete agreement. I want to make that clear. Next. So far, the to be announced kind of requests that have been general agreement within the committee. Again, they will be addressed again to confirm that, but exempt residents of the community tolling district, so all of the business district, from charges on cars that they own or rent. Don't exempt any city workers or groups beyond what the law specifies already. Exempt taxis and for-hire vehicles as long as congestion fee collected from the customers exceeds the daily fee on cars. We don't want to lose money on it. Two-way tolling, where you're charged sort of half of it when you start up and the other half when you leave, assuming that the pricing could be different at the two times. They felt was too complex and have no opinion, do not want to opine on this particular issue. In terms of variable tolling, which be such as the times of day or the days of the week, is what is meant by variable. No opinion, as they don't want to select winners and losers by choosing preferred times, or even that they be times. Next. So what's still to be decided? May 4th, we're hoping to target to finalize the resolution because the target is to bring it to full board next month. Some of the issues identified, motorcycles and mopeds. They're smaller than cars. Should they be charged less or even be outright exempt? Revel moped share. Should they be exempt as an extension of mass transportation? The company is DOT regulated and paying a daily fee could very well make them financially not viable. They do fair fares, so they do give half rates to people who are on various government programs financially. What about credits for bridges and tunnels for those tolls as they leave or enter the zone? Again, not discussed yet, to be discussed May 4th. Elected, and it was also a call that's a little bit off of legislation, but related, that elected officials work together to expand sustainable non-MTA transportation options, such as give some money to ferries, roads, city bike, etc. Find funding for, because this legislation is only for MTA. Structures, as I said, they've already been specified in the law. So if you go on to the next and last. So come to the committee on May 4th if you want to be part of the conversation for the resolution.
And with that, Betty Kay, thank you very much. I am not going to entertain any conversations on this here and now. It is very, very complicated, and I encourage you all to go to the committee for any dialogue that's going to happen on this topic. So thank you, Betty, and let's move on. Patrick, your turn.
Thanks, Tammy. I don't want to say quiet, but in terms of applications, at least a quiet month for land use. First, we got an update from Pace University on their master plan and a number of projects that are going on around the campus and around the community. One of the larger projects is at One Pace Plaza, their big building, where they're renovating a couple of floors to add some additional classrooms and performing arts spaces that are currently under construction. The targeted completion for that is around August of this year. So it'll be in time for the fall classes when Pace does anticipate that they'll have students back on campus for in-person classes. 15 Beekman Street was a controversial building. Folks may remember from last year at some point, there was an effort to try to save the building that SL Green was going to develop. But unfortunately that fell short. SL Green is developing the building with Pace as a tenant. Completion on that is expected in the fall of 2023. Pace is working at 161 William Street, where they're doing some lobby renovations and facade updates. And the big ticket item is future plans to One Pace Plaza, not to be confused with One Police Plaza, where the main heart of the campus is located. Pace has noted an urgent need for more performing arts spaces. So that's something they're going to try to keep in mind as they go through a big renovation of that building. What we learned in the committee, though, was very interesting, is that they have close to 800,000 square feet of development rights on that piece of property. They have engaged a broker, the Newmark firm, to help market those air rights. They may retain some of the air rights depending on their future plans. They're not solid on exactly what they're going to do, but they know that they do need to expand the building a bit. And as part of some other renovations that they're going to be doing within that building, presumably ultimately will be the big project as well. This fall, or the end of 2021, excuse me, they're going to be leaving parts of that building, except for the theater space that's there. They noted as well that the Pace representatives did that the courtyard area in that building is quite important to them and quite important to how their campus is positioned. So they're mindful of that and don't see themselves plunking a big old building down with a tower in the middle of that. But again, the big ticket item was the 800,000 square feet of development rights, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. The second item we talked about, we had a real lively panel discussion. I want to thank Diana and Tammy and Alice for really spearheading that and putting that together. We had 3 knowledgeable folks in various disciplines around land use and planning and preservation, who gave a talk about the City Council's legislation on comprehensive long-term planning, the Planning Together law that we've been looking at. And just to cut it short, the committee will be revisiting that legislation again at our May Land Use, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee, where we will plan to take a position and come to a resolution. Also, as a preview, coming up in May, we have 2 citywide text amendments, and we're going to have 5 World Trade Center back. So lots, and obviously we've gotten notice of pre-certification at 250 Water Street. Lots happening in the next couple of months at land use. So if anybody has any questions, we'll talk more later.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Moving along, Justine.
Thank you very much. All right, so the Battery Park City Committee, the first thing that we had on our agenda was the Battery Park City Authority presenting their 2020 budget and their financials. So just to remind you, the Battery Park City Authority gets its funding annually from collections from the ground lease collected from the tenants, both commercial and residential in Battery Park City, as well as the pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. The pilot's the part that's the same as every place else in New York City. The ground lease is extra. That money is collected every year and it goes into two separate buckets, basically. The New York City General Fund, which goes to fund things like education, NYPD, Department of Transportation, sanitation, blah, blah, blah. I think Jennifer was going to put up a link in the chat, by the way, that if you want to look at the 12 slides that I'm looking at to get this information. And it'll also give you a link to this presentation that they did. All right, so that one was the general fund. Second thing that they have is the joint purpose fund. And that joint purpose fund is part of an outgrowth of a contractual agreement between the Battery Park City Authority and the City of New York. It was entered into, God knows when it started, probably, I don't remember when. It was when we actually started getting revenue from the city, from Battery Park City. But in 2010, there was a settlement agreement because they had already filled up all the obligations of how they were going to disperse that money, and they had collected more money. So this settlement agreement is almost, the obligations in there are almost completed. What they're finishing up now is a $261 million New York City capital fund, and they expect that obligation to be paid off by the end of fiscal year 2021. At that point, they don't have any place until a decision is made where the money is going to go. There's no place for it to go, so they're just going to hold it in escrow until the decision is made, and whether it's going to be, you know, settlement agreement, you know, 101 or 102, who knows? We'll see. One thing that would be nice is if the community was, the Battery Park City community was at the table, because there's a lot of money that comes out of Battery Park City, as you'll see when I get to slide number 6, if anyone's following me. The BPCA advised us that in 2020, they collected $338 million in ground rent and pilot.
Hold on. Diana, do you have slides? Because I don't see them shown.
I had, go ahead.
Diana?
She does not.
Sorry, I was muted. I don't have them in this presentation, but I thought Justine said that someone put a link in the chat.
Jennifer said she put a link in the chat to the BPCA's slides.
Yes, it's there.
Okay, so if anybody wants to follow along, I'm almost done. There's only 12, I'm on number 6. So as I said, the fiscal year 2020, the actual receipts were $338 million, of which 51% came from the residential buildings and 44% came from the commercial buildings. The difference was 5% that came from things like the marina and other things that they're getting where they get rentals from. Of that, they also advised us on slide 7, if anyone's following, that their actual expenditures were $333 million. I don't quite understand how that works, but that's okay. I'm not an accountant. I need Mariama there to help me out with it all. But of that, 31% is going to operations and 69% is going to the excess revenue, which is what goes into those buckets for the joint purpose fund and the general fund. What we learned was 57% goes to debt service, which is paying off the bonds, and 33% goes to operating costs, just keeping the lights on for the Battery Park City Authority. That figure is $103 million just to operate the Battery Park City Authority and pay off the debt. The excess revenue going to the city was $230 million. One thing I would like to point out is that the debt service is now well above the operating costs, and it's a little bit of concern because they had to keep $103 million for themselves, and of that, 57% was debt service. Financing outlook, they seem like they're doing very well. They've got their very high ratings, and they've said that their capital plan is financed. They're looking to get new debt to finance the new capital plan, and they did not give us information about that. And that is the finances, the Battery Park City Authority. So that part is done. Second, we had a presentation from, sorry, anybody want to say something?
No, because you need to keep going.
I'm going. Second, we had the Tribeca Film Festival installation talking to us. The Tribeca Film Festival is on in 2021. They are going to be coming in and having the festival in Battery Park City, actually, by the North Cove Marina, where they've had some, they call them the drive-ins before. They're going to be there for 11 days, starting on June 8th and ending on June 20th. They're going to plan to have some specific programming for Juneteenth on June 19th. And they have not given us details for all that, but it sounds like it's going to be exciting. They're going to have a set of tables set up, they said around Pier A, I believe, by Battery Park, and they invite everybody to buy their tickets. I believe the website says that they're on sale now, so support the Tribeca Film Festival. And then what else? Two other little things. The public seating at the Winter Garden. There was some people in the neighborhood had come with some complaints saying that the security guards in the Winter Garden were refusing to allow people to sit in the seating area by where the palm trees are in the Winter Garden. We raised that issue. We were told that that's not, they were not allowed to sit unless they could show proof of a receipt of having bought some food or something in Brookfield Place. We were told that that is not what's supposed to be happening. It is public space. They just want to have the security there to kind of keep crowd control for COVID. However, all that said, even after our meeting, I have heard now from a number of people that folks are still being stopped, up to and including some members of this board, where they will refuse seating in the Winter Garden. So that'll be something else we'll be taking up with Brookfield. They'll be at our meeting in May. And that's kind of it. IGY Marina scheduled, they did present. They're going to be having a school going on, a camp going on, and they will be open for business. And look them up. They can be Googled, and that's it. I'm going to shut it down now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. I see no hands. Let's move on. Next report. This will be Miss Chapman. Wendy.
Yes, Alice is at graduation for her daughter today, so shout out to her. I hope that's going well. We want to do an update for the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project. We had a meeting on April 19th, and there were basically 4 agenda items. They wanted to update us on the flood wall. They wanted to talk to us about the pavilion or the building that they have on that site, accessibility and sustainability. And before I get into too much, I want to go through, I picked 16 out of the 75 slides. I'll try and go quickly through them, but I just wanted to make a note to everyone that we're going to get a little preview of what's going to happen to Wagner Park, because the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project that the mayor just announced, and if you're not familiar with that, at the East Side River Park, that's going to start, that construction starting in the fall of this year. They're going to start some of it. It's going to finish in 2025. They're going to put 8 to 9 feet of soil on top of the park, and this is 2.4 miles, and it's going to cost $1.45 billion. So we're going to keep a close eye on that, because that type of project is coming to our neighborhood sooner than we think. Okay, so the first slide here, which is all of these slides are hard to discern if this is the first time you've seen it. This is actually the wall that is looking into the battery, and off to the left, if you recall, they're going to be knocking down all the, a lot of the existing trees where the bike lanes are now, and burying a flood wall. And then you will see that flood wall has to peek out of that buried berm, and you can see the small bicycle in front of it. Then there's going to be a gap to enter the battery, and then on the right side there'll be another huge wall that that is very flat wall that Worry Price is hoping that we'll talk about design later on, but it's a very large wall, and behind that is Pier A, and then it will be the entrance into Wagner Park. So just to note that this wall is 10 feet tall. It's built for the 2050 1 in 100 year storm event. It's built at an 18-foot sea rise elevation. That width that's opening is just 30 feet. So it's going to really change the feel of walking into the Battery. So next slide. Okay, and this is an aerial view of the same area. In blue is the wall, and if you can see the dotted line, that's what's buried and what's going to be missing. And then you'll see small pillars that will be going up that will have the flip-up gates. Those pillars will be roughly 10 feet in height as well. And the other big piece of it is that, and we're going to get into it later, is that at the end of West Street, when it comes into the Battery, that is going to be now a much more important place to enter Wagner Park and Battery Park City, because we're going to show it later on. The new entrance to the park, is going to be either in front of the Jewish Museum or right here, kind of in that Pier A Plaza entrance. So why don't we go to the next slide? This is just an example. I wanted to show you two examples of walls that they showed us. So this first one is just stacks of different types of stone, mostly granite, but they've mixed other things in there. And then you can go to the next slide. Oh, actually, one of the slides is missing. I think Diana thought that it was the same slide. It's not the same slide. The second slide was going to be a different view of that, but more abstract and looking like the river. And what I wanted to share about that, and we had a lot of discussion, is that ACOM, who is leading this design effort, gave us two choices basically of what the wall should look like. And there was a tremendous amount of pushback from the public and from the committee to say, we can do better than this. That much wall on that space should create some sort of discussion about public arts and other things. But since we're in the last 5% of design, who knows if we're going to get that opportunity or not. So there was a lot of discussion saying that, it wasn't good enough, but we shall see. Okay, next slide. Oh, actually, stay on this slide for a second. So you can see Pier A Plaza in the back, and it will be accessible through, in the future, you will have to climb stairs up or take a ramp that's not really shown off to the left here to get up to the level that then you will walk up to the new allays going up to the new Wagner Park. So you start getting a sense that the street level is going to dramatically change when you go into this area. Again, you're going to walk up and then walk back down to get to Pier A. The next slide. This is really the idea of how are people going to move around this space. And this goes back to what I was saying, is that the way you're going to get in and around Wagner Park, which is off to the left with the big green field in front of it, is going to be up these pink walkways, which will now be 150 feet walkways up an alley on either side to get to the new building. And then you can see they're rerouting bike lanes, rerouting other ways into the park. Okay, next slide. This is a cross section, just so you see a little bit better, that off to the right is actually the river, and to the left is the street view that would be the current entrance to, Wagner Parks, like where Gigino's Wagner Park is, and the public restrooms. You'll see now that the entire park is elevated at 8 to 10 feet. They're going to be putting in a cistern and a lot of other environmentally friendly, opportunities, since they're going to be raising the whole land. But you can see this whole building is going to be up much higher than the current area, because it's a whole story higher, and then the building itself is going to be 26 feet tall above that. And then you'll see how you will walk down to the water. very different experience than we have today. Next slide. Okay, now we're talking a little bit about the building and the allays. I pulled this slide because they were actually telling us that this building is going to have, how green it was going to be in all of these new certifications. And Bob Schneck and others were, brought up Passive House and some of the other standards that are out there. They told us about something called zero carbon, which is something new. We don't know much about it, but they're very proud of the fact that this building is going to be at, wedge certified in terms of the park, and the building is going to be something called zero carbon, which again, we don't know a lot about, but they're trying to make it a green building. But I think this picture shows that you're now going to be coming up on either side up the allays and to get into the building. So next slide. So street level view, again, this is a little, I included it because there's so few pictures that were shown about how to get into the park. But if you go straight ahead to where you would go in normally, now you will just find that there's a 10-foot high area that's not accessible to the public, but will have a utility entrance for the battery park vehicles and the service entrance to the restaurant. So next slide. So this is another view of that of how the street is going to be, the service entrance there in the middle. Why don't we go to the next slide? So this is what the service entrance currently is going to look like. We really spent a lot of time saying that this is right now where you currently go into that beautiful park, and in front of you, you would see the Statue of Liberty, and you'd walk through the arch. And right now, it's going to be a back of house design, which they're trying to make it disappear, and we're saying it hasn't disappeared enough. So we're hoping they come back, and we do have some meetings set up with Nick and Glenn Dawson shortly to talk more about this. Next slide. Okay, so this was a discussion, and I've skipped a lot of these slides about how the building itself is going to be used, what part is a community space, which is the part on the top side of the slide, where the green goes into it, and on the bottom where the blue goes into it, that's going to be the restaurant piece of it. And what this picture is trying to show is that we asked to say, instead of just a complete back of house utility entrance, could there be elevators there to help people that might need to get in and out? And they said it would be very complicated if they didn't add another elevator to get to the two existing elevators that are in the building. So that was the purpose of the slide. And we're still asking to discuss, could there be another elevator? Because right now, entering the building from the outside off the street, you will have to push a wheelchair or a baby stroller up one of the two allays into the building, and it's 150 feet, depending on which side you pick. Okay, next slide. Okay, I wish that they had a closer view of the park and the pavilion. And again, they call this the pavilion. It's an actual building with a restaurant, community center, and then the roof deck, and then the park in the front. So why don't we go to the next slide? And you can just see the height of the building, and you can see all the things that they're, really excited about putting in terms of, recycling as much water as possible. They've got the cistern, they have LED lighting, and we of course are very complimentary that they're going to make this building as green as possible. And we're just trying to say if this, could it be in line with things that are that the city itself is working with, instead of their own certifications. When there's a little pushback on that front, but we understand it. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, again, just the building and the height of it, you can see there, I think it says 26 feet from the new elevation up to the top. So again, taller than what's currently there. Next slide. Okay, and I think this is the last slide that I have on here to talk a little bit of this, some of the resiliency and sustainability measures. I just want to bring up a couple other things, like they still have to work out the internal drainage on the other side of the wall, so the bathtub effect that's still there. I think it was mentioned earlier in the meeting that the PDC meeting is going to be May 28th. We certainly have a lot of concerns still about how many trees are coming down, and you know how basically the park that you're looking at right there, every bit of that is going to be brand new soil. You know, it's except for what's on the very, very edge, because they have to raise the whole thing by 8 feet. And you know, we're really also encouraging more discussion and a little bit more collaboration with the Battery Conservancy, so that the materials that are used in the battery project and Pier A continue into this area in terms of, you know, the stone wayfinding, you know, redoing the bike lanes. This is going to be a very complicated project, and you know, they say that once this project starts, it's going to take just 2 years. But you know, we're gonna, like I said, we're going to learn a lot from what's happening on the East River Park construction that's going to happen before this. Okay, I think that's the last slide. That's my update from that. There is certainly a lot more information, but we're pressed on time.
Yeah, so thanks, Wendy. I appreciate it. I think the greater concern I have after listening to everything is the fact that the East River Park and Wagner and Historic Battery Park and Pier A will all be torn up during the same time for all of next year and the following. And that's something that I hope people start standing up and talking about quickly, besides us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Mariama, large venue.
Hi, sorry about that. Okay, large venue. We had a 15-20-minute meeting. The office has invited all of the previous members from our last large gathering back in 2019, late 2019, and hoping to re-engage. First, starting by looking at what is a large venue, like, you know, how do we designate what venues would be considered large? So we learned that the city does have included in the Department of Buildings Code a 75-person sort of guideline that they consider that as, you know, 75 people and up as large. And so in looking at other locations around the city, actually Jen had the slides she was going to show them, but in looking at other locations around the city that have large venues, I brought up a site that included the top 15, you know, supposedly large venues around the city. Yeah, here they are. And all of the neighborhoods where they're located, none of them are like any of the neighborhoods down here within our district. So you'll see this first place that's considered large, Center 415, has a capacity of 800 people. It's 30,000 square feet. You know, we have buildings large enough to accommodate some of this square footage, but located on very narrow, small streets with cobblestones, made for horses, one lane, you know, no room for traffic, no room for perhaps an emergency vehicle that might need to get through. No, there's not like the multiple egress that's needed, you know, from the building. So you see we're having to compare ourselves to places like the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum, you know, Pier 60. The only one, the closest one to us is Tao downtown, and even that is in Chelsea. So none of these large venues are located within our district currently. And so going forward and trying to determine what can fill some of these vacant buildings, some of the commercial spaces, the banks and things that are vacated, what types of places can go into these buildings and still have everybody be happy. You know, a commercial entity be able to be successful, the residents be able to sleep at night, the emergency vehicles be able to access, you know, who and what and where they need to access, and, you know, still decent traffic, still our garbage not being all over the place and making it to sanitation. How can we have all of that at once is really what we're going to be looking at and trying to get it as close to perfect as possible and livable as possible. So we've discussed all of these places and decided that we need to have a longer meeting. 15-20 minutes was a nice start, but we need to have a longer meeting to, you know, give us more time to really flesh out some of these things. So that's what's next. And that's it. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Again, people interested in the dialogue, please go to licensing, because that's where this dialogue is starting. All righty, moving on. That brings us to Susan Cole. Take us home.
Okay, guys, this is it. All right, we have a couple of resolutions for you. One is very difficult. Well, so I'd like to take it at the end since we have to vote on it in person. You know what I mean? We have to vote, do an actual vote. So that will be 24 John Street.
Okay.
And so the other three are not very controversial, except I do want to note 120 Water Street. It's a hotel, and they were very clever when they come to us now. They gave us very limited time, whatever. They have a roof, and we did not approve the roof, but they want to come back in 6 months to have us see if we will have changed our mind about the roof. We're very concerned as a committee, whether it be Tribeca, Financial, South Street, about roof dining, roof discussion. As we already know from open streets, it's a mess and nobody's in control. So we're very restrictive about it. So I would like to, I just wanted you to all be alert and read that stuff and know about it. In addition, there's one other thing. There is a pizza place at the, I call it the Gold Street Co-ops, but I'm having a blank.
Golden Ann.
It's called Kesty. It is a pizza place. They came to us. They're very rude. And we are going to write a letter to the SLA that we do not want them. We have said it's another letter. They came up for an approval of their license, renewal, that we would like them to come in before they get any extension on the space they want. They couldn't explain it or anything. And God bless Frances, she took pictures and it's like wild, but that's beside the point. So I'd like to take all my, except 24 John Street, and have you report on it, and that's it.
All right, does anybody have any questions on any resolutions other than 24 John Street?
Bruce,
Okay. Bruce, do you have a question?
yes, maybe I put my hand up in the wrong place. I don't get it. Sorry. Also, Lucy texted me that my votes weren't being tabulated. I don't understand why. But anyway, the question is about Keste. I have not been there since they opened, but when they opened, they were a nice addition. And I don't know the owners, but did you say they were rude? And what was the issue with them?
The issue is they want to expand their outdoor space. Part of it is not into the street, but it does infringe. It is part of the co-op, but and it really isn't. You know, it's. But they have to come to us for their liquor license. But they were just. The guy was just really rude and terrible. So we have asked them to come back. That's all that's all it is.
If I may, Susan, Bruce, when he first came to us,
thank you.
He wanted to use outdoor space, and he was very obnoxious and insistent about putting tables outside. And this was before the whole city street thing happened.
Wow.
This was pre-COVID, and he came in with a whole different attitude, like, oh, I can do this. I'm there under the license of the co-op, and he was not nice. He was not nice.
I don't know him at all. I just like their pizza, but I understand now. Thank you.
And since then, you know, when they were going into letting the outdoor dining, he started building that elaborate thing he has.
Can you take that offline with Bruce to explain to him?
Okay.
Because it's 9:47 and I have two other hands up, and I am so sorry to cut you down on that one. Colin.
Yeah, I don't want to elongate this, but I just don't think, I respect the opinions of the previous speakers, but I don't think it's fair to characterize someone who I actually like a good deal, who's been very good to my family, for going in and eating their pizza. So I just wish we could take personal opinions out of these applications as much as we can. Excuse me, as much as we can.
Colin, this is not personal. I would like to be very clear. This was their behavior at the meeting and their inability to explain to us what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that's fine. I've said my piece, that's all.
Susan, if I might add, the letter that he wrote on this occasion also indicates that it's not necessarily personal on anybody from the committee side, but personal from him. He's the one that raised issues about being petty and tried to start an argument in his own letter where he's asking for our vote of support.
So we can take this all offline. I think I'm going to be Tammy. Vote on these three. We're not voting on Kesty because we're just sending a letter.
Okay.
Tammy, could I just make one more quick point about decorum? We cannot insert these things into the merits of the application or not. Whether or not he was rude doesn't matter. We got to stick to the merits of the application. That's my only point.
And for that thing, the question has been called, so I ask you to please go on mute. The question's been called for all the resolutions other than 24 John Street. So Brittany, take it away.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay.
Mahoney's opposed to Keste.
Go ahead.
Keste is being voted on.
It's a report.
Well.
It's a report, Colin.
Okay.
You can go to committee next month and give your feelings directly into licensing.
Oh, well, thank you for lecturing me that.
You're welcome. Okay. So.
All right. I would like to propose something.
Hold on. Colin has to clarify his vote because he said, because it was not right. So Colin, are you yay, nay, abstain? For all
evidently there's nothing to vote on. I incorrectly said no, so there's nothing for me to say. I'm sorry, it's 10 o'clock. Usually I think more clearly after 8
I
o'clock.
know. Believe me, I'm with you. All right, so the last resolution of the night is a roll call, and it's 24 John Street. Whew. Susan.
Okay, 24 John Street is a hotel. It is asking for the 20th and 21st floor for a liquor license. We have, if you've read the resolution, there was tremendous community opposition, and they were dishonest in their presentation. There have been there gangs hanging out. They don't have enough security, and people live there. And so the last whereas is what I want to amend, and I want you to understand it and see it. We oppose the granting totally of this liquor license. And I do not want I want to say we urge the SLA to reject the application, period. I don't want any stipulations or anything added to it because I've talked to my co-chairs. We think it weakens it, and the SLA can send it back, and we will send a letter But the last resolve tells you why we don't want to approve this liquor license at this time. They just were, they really were not truthful in their whole presentation to us as well. And that's all I have to say. So people can ask me questions, whatever.
All right, we're gonna go hands up. Nice in order and decorum. Nobody unmutes. Everybody goes by hands up. Mr. Amoruso, you're first.
Okay, I'll be quick on this one. Just like with this application and with the previous one, I've been doing since 1994 liquor licenses, and being a good neighbor, being honest, not having an attitude, all these things factor into whether or not someone's going to be a good neighbor or a good applicant. A liquor license is a privilege; it's not a right. So we need to consider these things, particularly if it's overt, as it was in this case and the case before. So we do consider being a good neighbor. So I just wanted to say that is a consideration we're allowed to and we should factor in.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Mariama James is next. Thank you everybody for hands up on this. I appreciate it because we want to roll it. Mariama?
I 100% agree with Mark. We had to deal with a lot of comments on both occasions from both of these applicants, and you have to take that into consideration. And the neighborhood has had to deal with violence in the area, even if it wasn't caused by the applicant directly on their premises, and we have to take that into consideration.
In this case, I'd like to clarify, it was a lot of the traffic they had with their clientele was a problem.
Okay. Andrew Zelter, you're next. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just curious with respect to the reference to ongoing drug and gang activity. Is that something we're also able to verify through the local police precinct if people have reported that into the cops?
Yes, Andrew.
Great, thank you.
We have 311 calls. We have police that were called there. It's not. We try to be very careful if we say something like that.
Great, thanks, Susan.
Okay. Looking up, I see no. Oh, Andrew, your hand's up, but it's going down. I assume with no other hands up. Final call for hands up, including Bruce, who can't figure out how to put his hand up. Fantastic. I am saying let's call the question, and it's a roll call. Can I get a second?
I second. Can I second my own whatever?
Absolutely.
I second.
Thank you.
Amoruso.
Yes.
Brown Kennedy.
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Cameron.
Cameron, yes.
Cassell.
Yes.
Chang.
Chang, yes.
Chapman.
Chapman, yes.
Charkoudian.
Charkoudian votes yes.
Thank you. Cole.
Yes.
Puccia.
Puccia votes yes.
Cunningham.
Yes, Cunningham votes yes.
Curtis.
Curtis votes yes.
Ehrman.
Airman votes yes, and good night.
Flynn.
Flynn votes yes.
Friedman.
Friedman, yes.
Froman.
Sorry, on the Froman, yes.
Galloway.
Galloway, yes.
Goldstein.
Goldstein, yes.
James.
James, yes.
Joyce.
Joyce, yes.
A.
Okay, yes.
Cannell.
Emphatically, yes.
Kettering.
Kettering, yes.
Capel. Capel. I'll come back. Clemente.
Clemente, yes.
Lemery.
Lemery, yes.
Lerner.
Lerner, yes.
Lewinson,
Lewinson, yes.
Mahoney,
Mahoney, yes.
McHugh, McHugh. Okay, Meltzer,
Sorry, I'm laughing my head off over here because it's almost 10, but I'm a yes.
Myhawk,
Yes.
Monjovi,
Yes.
Moore,
Moore votes yes.
Neck,
Heck votes yes.
Sung,
Yes, and good night.
Wade, yes. Z,
Z, yes.
Zelter.
Zelter votes yes.
Okay, great. And do we have McHugh? Or do we have Capel?
McHugh?
Yeah, there she is.
Okay, I hear her. Okay, got it. And I guess we don't have Joel. Okay, we're good.
Awesome. So with that, it is 9:57. Thank you, Susan. We're done before 10. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
We got 2 minutes left.
Second.
Listen, everybody, if you want to be out of here by 9 o'clock, 9:30, stop arguing and interrupting each other. I'm so down for that. Okay? When you're in person, I'm going to figure out like a water gun.
A water gun.
Good night.
Or silly spray. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely night.
Good night,
everybody. Stay safe.
I love you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
I love everybody.